Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Curse of Strahd, Twice Bitten, the show where 5 DMs take on D&D's spookiest Gothic horror campaign. I'm Dragnacarta, your host and DM, and as always, a big thank you to everyone for continuing to tune in. Before we get started, we just have two super quick announcements. Serena, why don't you take the first one?
So just a reminder to everyone, our Twice Bitten Curse of Strahd revamped giveaway is live. You have to follow us on Twitter, and retweet the tweet that I will put into the Twitch chat to be qualified. The winner will be selected on the 30th of October at midnight or 11:59 p.m. and we will announce the winner live on stream on Halloween. I'm sorry, I have a mouthful of marbles today.
All right, thank you, Serena. And Linus, one more thing as well. Do you mind giving yours?
Yeah, we're going to have our third After Dark, a behind-the-scenes chat about our podcast and Curse of Strahd in general, on October 29th at 9 p.m. EST. That is 6 p.m. for you West Coasties. We're going to talk about the aggressive Strahd encounters we've had so far, as well as the true horror of the campaign, i.e. running Vallakian. You can watch it here on twitch.tv/Our Curse of Strahd, or catch the VOD on YouTube. And this time you can submit questions in a Reddit thread, the After Dark question thread in our subreddit, r/TwiceBittenDND.
All right, thank you very much, Linus. With that, I think we are ready to get started. We're certainly hoping to see all of you at the After Dark session. It should be a good, chill vibe. So, without any further ado, let's get started with Curse of Strahd, Twice Bitten.
Woo woo!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, last we left off on Curse of Strahd, Twice Bitten. Now arrived in Vallakian, the fortified town at the center of the Barovian Valley, our 5 travelers did their best to learn more about this new land and the people who inhabited it. However, as they slept in the Blue Water Inn, a local inn and tavern, their restful sleep was shattered as swarms of bats and a horde of undead broke through the windows and doors of the inn. Divided and off guard, the party did their best to defend themselves, only to learn that their efforts to escape him had been in vain when Strahd von Zarevich arrived. He greeted the PCs from the threshold of the inn, requesting an invitation to enter. Despite the timely arrival of a strange, raven-headed figure that commanded Strahd to stand down, Strahd's minions lingered as the Vampire Lord himself awaited a response. Finally, Amity broke the stalemate, allowing Strahd to enter her own rented room. There, she and Erthrindir met the Vampire Lord head-on, with Erthrindir volunteering himself to satisfy Strahd's bloodlust. Strahd, however, was untaken with Erthrindir's self-sacrifice and left him bleeding on the floor before departing into the night. Together and apart, the characters did their best to recover and reflect on this terrifying encounter. As Erthrindir vanished into the streets, Metreon sought solace at St. Andrew's Church, and Kiva pressed Erwin and Danica, the owners of the Blue Water Inn, for answers. Finally, now shaken but with a stronger resolve to stay together, the travelers returned to their beds once more to regain what restless sleep they could. In the morning, they learned that the Mardicubs had suffered a recent loss, a missing shipment of wine from the local Wizard of Wine's winery. Happy to leave Vallaki and eager for work, they volunteered to investigate. The group also accepted an invitation from a strange man on the Vallakian streets, who bid them to dine with Lady Fiona Voctor, a local Vallakian noble, regarding an undisclosed opportunity later that evening. As the day continued, Erthrindir took Amity to Blinsky Toys, the Vallakian toy maker, to commission a proper prosthetic for Amity's injured leg, while Kiva hired the wolf hunters, Soldar and Yevgeny, to be their guides through the Vallakian landscape the following day, both to the Wizard of Wines itself and, potentially, to gain directions to the nearby Vistani encampment, where Erthrindir and Metreon believed that they could learn more about how to escape Barovia. Finally, at the end of a long day, the party made their way to the estate of Lady Fiona Voctor, Voctorhaus, and prepared themselves to dine with the mysterious noblewoman. And so, the five of you find yourselves standing upon the doorstep of this aged estate, the slouching mansion before you covered with vines and ivy. The gates to the property hanging slightly closed behind you, the black cast iron of the fencing surrounding the exterior. Before you stands a simple door, the double doors leading into the mansion proper. For a moment it's quiet, and you can tell that dusk and night are very nearly upon you. What are you all doing?
So, Lillison will pause right before she gets to the doorstep and look at everybody, just quickly assess what they're wearing, see from their expressions how they might be feeling, and she's going to nod firmly once and say, "All right. Well, there's certainly not enough time to do a full etiquette lesson, but I don't believe that that's what will be required of us today. As far as I can tell, this lady has invited us here in order to impress upon us how powerful and privileged she might be, whether or not that's actually accurate, in order to gang press us into doing something for her. So our task should be quite simple. We sit through the first half of the encounter, just nodding and smiling and looking very impressed with everything she does. And then the second half, all we have to do is ask questions and try not to offend her.
Metreon steps up, and you notice that for the first time, he's painted his hands, and they're powdered, so that he could show off his rings, one of which is a silver signet ring. Don't worry, love. I think we'll take care of this. Kiva. Amity, have you ever dined in the presence of your betters?
No, no, never.
Betters? No.
And when he said betters, he did air quotes. Sorry, we're not on camera, so you didn't see it.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, my response is more friendly.
Well, just keep the bags off the floor, keep your hands up, elbows off the table. But as Lillison said, be mindful, courteous, but inquisitive when appropriate.
What if she can do what he can do with the eye contact?
Well, that would be a tricky pickle, isn't it?
I mean, should we risk it at first? I don't. Look, I'm not trying to interrupt your etiquette lesson. Trust me, I appreciate it, but I just don't know how much we can trust this woman.
It's a fair point. Well, we can go inside, and if she's suspicious, listen, you seem to be pretty perceptive now.
I believe that it wouldn't hurt our impression of being overawed if we kept our eyes down.
And if worse comes to worst, we can check if she's serving garlic.
Right. garlic bread, perhaps.
Oh, I would kill for that at the moment. But yeah, let's keep our eyes down, keep focused, and let her tell us why we're here.
What's the goal for us out of all of this? I mean, are we trying to get work from her if she's offering it? Or are we just trying to rub elbows with people?
Our continued survival here is largely contingent on the goodwill of powerful people. Having one of those powerful people in our corner would help that tremendously. Money would be nice, as would, well, means to kind of stay in people's good graces, but I think our big goal is to kind of make sure we're going to have a place here and see if we can get any aid for that wine carting endeavor, unless any of y'all disagree.
Listen, if the worst thing that happens tonight is a fabulous dinner, then I think it's a success overall. Again, we just keep ourselves open to opportunity, and should it present itself in a reasonable way, I don't think turning down a position with her is detrimental.
I think the fact that she reached out to us means that she certainly wants something from us, and I want to know what that is before I make any judgments about what to do next.
Kiva just looks very, very conscious of every move that she's making. Her entire body language, everything is much more specific than it's ever been, I think, that anyone has seen from her. But she also looks absolutely terrified.
Melissa just smiled, and she's like, "Don't worry, we are not the ones who are supposed to be putting on the performance here. She called us here for a reason, and she will have to present that reason. We are just here to listen."
Well, either way, dear, and Metreon puts his hand on your shoulder, Kiva. Roll your shoulders back, chin up.
Kiva does so, and she, the comfort of her friends is helpful to her, so she looks a little less frightened.
When in doubt, say nothing at all.
Well, that I can do.
Lilson looks over at Erthrindir and Amity. How are you two feeling?
It's a fancy dinner with a fancy knob trying to show off. It's fine. I'm kind of worrying more about being bored than being menaced.
I bet she's going to have some kind of task she wants us to do. But if it's something that we really don't want to do, I trust you to weave your way out of it, Lillison.
Then shall we?
Shall we?
And Metreon steps aside and sort of makes a gesture towards the door for Lillison.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And Lillison steps forward and, what kind of handle does this door have? Does it open in or out?
So the door appears to open inward. It's made of wood, but reinforced in several places with bronze bands, and the central band actually seems to turn into a simple circular bronze knocker, just the proper height.
Okay. Lillison will step up and grasp the knocker and knock firmly 3 times.
All right. There's a pause for a few moments, and then you hear the sound of footsteps approaching through the door. There's a sound of a small click and something twisting in place, and then you see a small panel on the door that you had not noticed before, folding and sliding open, revealing a small window into the interior around eye height. Through it, you see an eye staring back through. At a moment, a voice echoing, "State your business. Who are you, and for what purpose do you come to my lady's home?"
Good evening. We are a bunch of newcomers to this town. We received an invitation to dine with the Lady Wachter tonight.
Very good. One moment, please. You hear a click as the small window is shut again and presumably locked in place. You hear the twisting of another lock on the door, and then it opens. You can see on the other side a tallish man of pale skin, thinning black hair pulled back over his head, though no paler than most Barovians and Vallakians you've seen. You can see that he wears a muted gray servant's jacket over a pale white button tunic, a small tied cloth around his neck. He gives you a small nod of welcome. Good evening. Forgive me, but welcome. And he steps back, holding his hand out as if to invite you inside.
Is this the same person who approached us on the street earlier, or a different person?
It is not. The man earlier had, kind of this goatee, this kind of like somewhat scruffy-looking cloak. This man is very well groomed, very well dressed, a very neutral expression on his face. This man very much has the vibe of professional servant or butler that you've seen before.
Lillison will just give him like a little half nod, step inside, and then kind of scoot off to one side and wait for everybody else to file in.
Yeah, Metrian will go in after her and
Gladly.
nod at the butler as he does.
Good evening. Amity shakes his hand and like grins before remembering not to do eye contact and like looks down suddenly.
The man frowns at your approach and just kind of awkwardly jerks away a hand from yours. Please, if you would follow me, I will take you to Our Lady. She is expecting you. You can see that here the front door is opened into a narrow vestibule. And as he guides you forward through another door, past what seem to be two closed wooden closet doors, you can see that the opening beyond has 3 stained glass doors in wooden frames leading from the vestibule. As you pass through the door into the house proper, you can see a wooden staircase leading up to a balcony. At the foot of the stairs is a landing with 3 more stained glass doors in wooden frames. From here, you can actually smell a delicious scent emanating from the right side door, but the man instead turns to the left side door, opening it with a click and once more holding it open and ushering you to proceed. As you make your way forward, you can see in the room beyond an ornate dining table stretching the length of this room, a crystal chandelier hanging above it imperiously. The silverware is tarnished, the dishes chipped, yet all are still quite elegant. 8 chairs, their backs adorned with sculpted elk horns, surround the table. And arched windows made of a latticework of iron and glass look out onto the small, fog-swept estate. All of you proceeding into the dining room from the landing?
Yep.
Yeah, Metran will ask the butler, does the lady have a seating arrangement she prefers?
The man eyes you. The lady will sit at the head of the table. You will be seated where you please.
And with that, Metran wants to sit somewhere that is facing all the exits, if possible.
All right. As you make your way into the dining room and kind of move to take out a seat, the butler closes the door behind you and actually holds up a hand as if to halt you from removing the chair. Instead, he turns to the right side of the dining table, where you can see there a handsomely dressed parlor. Here, 3 elegant couches surround an oval table made of black glass. All are set in front of a blazing hearth, above which hangs the portrait of a smirking nobleman sporting a broken nose and a tangle of hair graying at the temples. Several smaller portraits hang on the north wall, but they're not the ones that have the attention of the occupant of this parlor. You can see an older woman sitting on the couch, her hands folded neatly over her dress, gazing up at the portrait of the smirking nobleman with a soft look in her eyes. As the sound of your footsteps enters the room, you see her turn to face you, and you can see that she is an older woman with faint wrinkles along her cheeks and forehead, the beginnings of age, but not quite entirely senior yet. You can see that her features are sharp and angular, especially around her cheeks, which protrude above her lips, and her dark hair is streaked with lines of gray and elegantly styled above and behind her head. She wears a dark gray dress with lines of lace around the neck and cuffs, and a bronze brace over her shoulders at the base of the neck. Her eyes are dark and narrowed, her eyebrows elegantly plucked and furrowed. And as she slowly moves to stand, straightening the skirts of her dress. You can see that instantly that she carries herself with a quiet but precise grace. She fixes her eyes on the butler and says quietly, "Thank you, Helik. You are excused." Helik, the butler, bows and makes his way out of the room, leaving you alone with the woman. She offers you a small look, a small curve of her lips that doesn't quite amount to a smile, and there's certainly not much warmth in her eyes, but she regards you with a cautious but welcoming look. "Good evening, and welcome to my home. I am Fiona Voctor, and it is a pleasure to have such honored guests in my home this evening."
It is our pleasure to be your guest. And Metron will approach and sort of take a bit of a knee and bow towards her and extend his hand as if wanting to take her hand into his.
She nods and extends her hand for him to take.
He very gently, some might say a little bit seductively, kisses the top of her knuckles and flashes a bit of a smile at her. And there's certainly a bit of a smoldering look in his eyes when he does it.
Oh my god, Metreon.
Whew, it's warm all of a sudden.
She gives
Lillison,
a yes, Lillison.
well, Lillison will just step forward, not nearly as close. Place her hand over her heart area, just give her a small nod and say, "We are honored by your invitation. I am Lady Lillison Tornsail."
Well met, Lady Tornsail, and you can see her eyebrows creep slightly up into her forehead as she utters the honorific, but she eyes for a moment your dress and nods in what you think is a gesture of small approval. "It is good to know that our town's newest guests have a proper measure of courtesy and decorum. You may stand," and she nods down toward Metreon, sniffing slightly.
Thank you, my lady. And I am Metreon Malfoy, a traveling companion of Lady Turnsail.
"A pleasure," and she gives you a small, curt nod. "And as for your companions, I would be most appreciative to learn more about those that our town has humbly welcomed."
Earthrendeer will step forward and give a small but courteous bow. Earthrendeer Ariel from the Sea of Fallen Stars. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, ma'am, and thank you so much for the invitation.
She nods and tilts her head slightly. "The Sea of Fallen Stars. What's an intriguing name for a location?
It is.
Tell me, has it had that name for long?"
It's what the humanoids around the area call it. It's actually a few thousand years back. It was called something else because of different Yes, for quite a while. I'm very fond of it.
Fascinating. The names that outsiders bring are enchanting, as always. And as for you, and she turns to Amity.
Amity steps forward and curtsies a little bit. Oriana Elvin, though call me Amity.
Her eyebrows creak up a little bit further, but you can see her eyeing your horns and reddish skin for a moment. And for a moment, you feel this kind of hesitation as she kind of weighs you like the other Vallakians have. But then she actually, rather than her eyes narrowing, she almost nods as if, again, in the faint gesture of approval. Again, her lip curling in that faint non-smile. "Very good. And you?" And she turns to Kiva.
Kiva Sirilai, ma'am, and she bows her head a little bit. I guess I'm from Neverwinter.
What a quaint name. I believe I've heard that once or twice, but you are all most welcome to Voctor House, the estate of the ancient and noble House of Voctor. Please, be comfortable in my home. I am glad to welcome you to Vallaki and most appreciative of your company. If you would like, you may have a seat in my parlor. It is as well kept as I can make it for guests of your stature. Please, Make yourselves comfortable. We shall be dining shortly, I am sure.
Metron will have a seat. He'll take a seat that's close to her sitting area, but also still being mindful of facing the exit of the room. There's a slight squeaking of the very brand new studded leather armor he just bought as he reclines against the chair.
Yeah, Earthendeer will take a seat in the parlor, kind of giving the portraits a curious look.
Well, I must be assured that I'm sure that you've had, hopefully, a warm welcome in Vallaki. I know that our town can be sometimes suspicious toward outsiders, so I certainly hope you've had a pleasant time in your arrival.
It's presented many new, both opportunities and challenges, but overall it is a lovely town. Not quite what I'm used to, but a beautiful place nonetheless.
It
Indeed.
certainly hasn't
She
been.
nods and looks toward Lillison.
Our arrival here was not exactly as planned, but it has been very exciting so far. Has your family lived here long?
Oh, yes, and she nods. We have been here for generations, since the very founding of this settlement. The House of Vokta has stood by and stood strong behind Vallaki's walls, doing our best for its citizens. Although one cannot say that we have always been met with adequate partnership, but regardless, I certainly hope that none of these challenges you've met thus far have overtly spoiled your time here. I know that they can be a troubling adjustment period for newcomers at times.
There is a certain strictness that I detect, but the rule of law and order and all that.
Oh, I presume that these are new laws to you then. I have heard it so, but I'm curious, what of Vallaki's unique system have you found strange to you? I confess that I find it quite curious myself. I would be most intrigued to hear of an outsider's insight.
Well, where I come from, specifically Waterdeep, the city itself is quite large and, in all things, pretty liberal, fairly so. There are rules, there is law, there is order, and they are adhered to as best as they can, but perhaps not in such a theatrical manner.
Indeed. Waterdeep sounds like an intriguing place. All these distant locations you've shared with me seem so intriguing. I must ask, given that you seem to be somewhat surprised, I presume that none of these locations have a crime of malicious unhappiness?
None that I've yet been
Yeah,
to,
no.
ma'am.
No.
Curious. So I was correct then. Vallaki does have our unique quirks.
Do you mean that it's a crime not just to, I know it's a crime to say bad things about the Baron, Vallakovich, but it's not a crime just to, be sad.
She offers you a small, almost pitying look. My dear, you must not have been in Vallaki very long at all. Forgive my condescending tone, but under the Vallakovich's rule, happiness or its facsimile has been quite strongly enforced, on pain of public humiliation or worse, at the hands of the Baron or his own personal right-hand man, shall we say.
But surely that has to be hard to enforce, no? You can't really police people's inner thoughts or emotions.
My dear, I assure you that the Baron, as excellent a ruler as he may be, has difficulty sometimes pondering the inner reaches of the thoughts of those around him. Why waste time discerning one's true intentions when outer appearances are so reliable in rendering one at peace? A smile and silence seem to be easily bought with force, no? And she offers you a very forced, pained smile that she almost winces to share.
Kiva almost
raises an eyebrow.
reflexively does one back because that's a very familiar look for her.
Wow, this emperor has absolutely no clothes.
Yeah,
I
no, that's
assumed-
apt.
I assume that's a metaphor of some sort.
Right, yeah, it's from another fable. Very vain leader. I can elaborate if you want.
Is he a nudist?
No, it's just that he thinks he's wearing some kind of magical clothing, but actually he's not wearing any clothing. And a small child points it out, humiliating him in the public. And it ends with the summary execution of the child, sparking anarchy.
Oh, what a lovely fable.
They really are rarely happy endings, aren't they?
They really aren't.
You know,
Perhaps.
Lady Flocta. She is
Yes.
one of the best storytellers I've encountered in all my years of traveling. In lieu of a gift, which I would usually bring upon my arrival to such a lavish affair, do accept our own anecdotes and stories as tokens of our appreciation.
Oh, right, sorry I didn't properly tell that one. I just sort of summarized it.
Not concerned at all. I am once more intrigued by the tales and wisdom you seem to bring from beyond the mists. Why, in a town where, let us be frank, certain delusions can overrule one's good sense, it is pleasing to hear of one so wise to know the importance of piercing through falsehoods.
If I might inquire, what is it? Have you been at odds with the local authority for some time now?
Oh, I assure you, I am perfectly in the good graces of our dear Baron Vallakian. Why, he wouldn't dream of sending his mastiff after me, I'm sure. No. He is far too intelligent to do such a foolish thing.
But you do appear to be dissatisfied with the current reign.
Was it that obvious? And she looks almost stricken for a moment and then smiles, reclining in her seat. Forgive me. It has been so long since I've had proper company to speak with that perhaps I have let my guard down. But regardless, it does me good to know that I perhaps am not an insane woman, but rather that I may be one of the sole reasonable individuals left in this town of delusions. Why, the sole thought that a forced smile and an endless parade of festivals might suffice to keep forces at bay beyond the walls. She shakes her head.
I actually got the impression that maybe quite a lot of people feel the same way you do, but it might be too risky to express that.
Is that so? Forgive me, I've not left my estate in quite a long time, not since my dear husband passed. So it is good to know that perhaps I am not alone in my fears.
My condolences, and Metreon reaches over and rubs the top of her hand in trying to console her.
She gives you a nod. Thank you, my dear, it is most appreciated. He was among the best of us, but in his absence I shall carry on, best as I always have. Regardless, I certainly hope that you won't be too disappointed in our town at the Festival of the Sunlight, or whatever he's calling it. That will take place in the future tomorrow, I believe. They can be presumptuous affairs, but I certainly hope that you'll keep a firm head on your shoulders. Those that disparage them, well, the Baron fears that they might bring on dark things upon his head, so I would caution you in at least his sight for now.
I'm sorry, am I to understand that, like, he literally thinks that happiness or the facsimile of such will keep what away from the town exactly?
Why? They believe that... Forgive me. Again, the metaphor, the story used, the Emperor has no clothes, seems quite apt here, though he is perhaps a baron and not an emperor, but nonetheless, I think the concept of falsehood paraded as naked truth is quite suitable here. The baron and his ilk believe that Vallaki is damned, but that hope and happiness are the key to its salvation. That alone, I am sure that you as worldly individuals would know may be a bit of a stretch from the truth, but beyond that, I am sure that you must know that even if this were to be true, forced and fearful hope and the falsehood of happiness are no hope and happiness at all. I fear that, well, those considerations may be beyond his policy making.
That is good to know.
Could you tell us whether this has been a recent development or whether this is something that his family has enforced for a long time?
The Vallakovich household has held domain over Vallaki for many, many years, going back to its founding, as you will note by the similar name of the settlement. But the current burgomaster, Dear Vargas, has accentuated some of the eccentricities of his father, I fear. And it appears that his son is little better, I'm afraid. My family has had ill experiences at the hands of the young Vallakovich, so forgive me, it is a troublesome matter to see how our town might continue under this dread.
Well, yes, pathological optimism is an alarming concept. How have you maintained yourself, though? You said you've not left the estate for long.
Well, I do what one can. I have taken pride in seeing my two boys grow up. They've become handsome, wonderful young men, just as their father would have loved to see. My dear daughter, at least, and she looks stricken for a moment, prior to her illness, was quite a ray of sunshine in my life.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
It is all right. I do what I can to keep her comfortable, and it is a sad reminder of what the Vallakovich clan can do, so long as they retain power.
I'm so sorry to bring up your old sorrows, but I am curious. It does sound as if your family is the keeper of at least quite some town history, perhaps history of the region. And she darts a glance over at Erthrindir.
She raises an eyebrow. Well, my family has resided here for many years. We have acquired much knowledge of the area. I'm sure, well, forgive me, I'm certain as outsiders, as newcomers, you might be hungry to learn more about the place you found yourselves in.
Quiet, yes. So, if you don't mind me asking, we've been thus far unable to find anyone who can tell us farther back than their own lifetimes. How do you know how long this mist has been here?
Well, centuries, at least I am certain. As far back as my family's ancestry can recall, the walls of fog have always blocked egress from the lands of Barovia, save for, of course, those precious few, the Vistani, who may pass through of their own volition.
What do you know of the Vistani? We've heard of them in passing, but we know that, or at least have heard that they have been able to traverse the mist themselves.
At this point, you hear the door to the large room opening, and Halik, the butler, pokes his head through. Dinner is served. If my lady and her guests would assume their places at the table, sustenance and drink shall be served in short time. Thank you.
Metron will stand and offer his hand to help Fiona off the the couch or chair that she's sitting in.
Fiona bows her head in gratitude and accepts the hand to stand to her feet. Well, I must say that, as always, you are welcome if you'd like to have seats at my table. I certainly hope that the meal that David has prepared for us shall be to your liking. He is an excellent cook.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Metrion will go to the chair that he initially wanted to sit down in, but did not. But yeah, he'll go to that one. But on his way, he'll pull out the chair for Fiona and make sure that she sits down first, and then he'll go to his chair.
Yep.
She gives you a small nod and assumes her seat at the head of the table.
Kiva, go ahead.
Take a seat towards the end of the table.
Yeah, I was going to say Kiva sits as far away as possible from her because she does not have the etiquette skills to engage in conversation.
Yeah, Lillison will take a seat near the head of the table, preferably across from Metrion if she can, so that, she can kick him discreetly under the table if need be.
Amity's going to take the closest spot not already occupied by Lillison or Metrion.
All right, I'd say that should all be easy enough. You can find and take your seats, Fiona nodding to you as you do, and as she does, you hear the door open once more, as first enters a new man, a squat man with a pallid complexion, kind of dark black hair that has kind of been pulled back over the sides, parting at the center in what looks like a very messy combing job. His face kind of furrowed with his eyebrows, a perpetual frown upon his face that doesn't quite shift so much as twitch very faintly as he shambles into the room carrying a large platter of delicious and succulent smelling food. You see as he begins to set it down upon the table in one or two trips, you see bowls of roasted vegetables, of turnips, potatoes, and carrots in brown gravy alongside what appears to be a bit of roast goat that has been carved and set aside appropriately for ease of serving, followed up by behind him the manservant Halik bringing forth a pair of wine bottles. As he sits down onto the table, he begins pouring them into a crystal wine decanter and pouring the wine forth into each of the slightly chipped and faded but beautiful glasses at each setting. You can see it's a lush scarlet red wine, and then as he sets it upon the table, you can see up on the label reading Red Dragon Crush and the name Wizard of Wine's Winery across the side.
Have we had this wine? Was this one of the wines at Blue Water?
Yes, this was the slightly more expensive wine that you had at the Blue Water Inn.
Oh, fantastic.
Splendid. Yeah, Earthrendeer kind of visibly perks up when he sees the food. Oh, this smells heavenly. We've been on the road for, I've been on it for a month or two now. You have no idea how nice it is to get a good meal, ma'am.
Oh, not a concern at all. Again, you are my guests for this evening. If I were to be remiss in feeding you, I would be remiss as a hostess. Please, enjoy. I'm sure you've all had quite a journey in the time you've been in Barovia.
That we have.
We are honored by your hospitality.
Metrion raises his glass that's now full. And to you, my lady, to hopefully forging new relationships and to discretion.
She gives you a small nod, and again, that half curl of a smile on her face that doesn't quite reach her eyes. To new relationships and discretion, and to a bright future for Vallaki. She raises her glass high.
Amity raises it along. To a pocket of trust and kindness here.
Cheers.
Indeed.
Wilson
Cheers to that.
Wilson will narrow her eyes just a little bit, and when she raises her glass, she just says, "To all of our continued health."
Kiva raises her glass as well, but pointedly waits for everyone else to take a drink before she herself takes one.
I just imagine her doing it too late, and then...
Yeah, that's pretty much the vibe that she's trying to give off, but she's waiting for everyone else to both eat and drink before she partakes.
Earthrendeer kind of side-eyes her and whispers, "Kiva, any competent poisoner isn't going to put anything that's going to it'd probably take effect a few hours from now. You're going to be awful hungry if you wait for us to not die.
Notably, Lillison will wait only as long as is polite, but she does not seem to have any hesitations about digging into the food and drink.
Yeah, neither does Metreon.
At this, the manservant and cook, Halik and Devito, actually begun serving generous helpings onto the plates before bowing and taking their leave, though Halik remains standing silently in the corner, a thin, neutral expression upon his face, as Fiona turns away from him. Please, enjoy. Now, where were we? When she kind of begins cutting a bit into her own slice of goat.
Question, is the silverware silver?
The silverware itself,
Like you said, things are kind of chipped and dirty. But...
Yes, the silverware is a little tarnished, but it is authentic silverware.
Fantastic.
So,
one over the other, Metreon.
Fiona kind of glances over at Metron, who seems to be inspecting the silverware a bit too closely, and
Oh
turns around to the
no! I
others.
wasn't inspecting it too closely.
Of course. So, again, I must confess, I'm curious to know about all of you. What have you? By what means did you come to Vallaki, and how have how well have you found yourselves to be traveling through? It is my understanding that travel upon our roads can be quite dangerous. Certainly, I'm sure you must be fairly adept at your own protection to have made it this far. I must confess, I'm impressed.
Thank you. Yes, we were part of a caravan, actually. We were traveling on our way to another city, Neverwinter. Unfortunately, I believe our navigation was a bit off, and we've been here ever since. I believe it's been nearly a week.
Oh my goodness, it's only been a week. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're lucky. We haven't run into many problems on the roads, or most of the ones we have been he kind of trails off, looking down. We survived.
We were fortunate to have been joined by another traveling companion with a very strong sword arm. I am not entirely sure where he went now, but yes, we were fortunate. More fortunate, I hear, than some others who must travel these roads.
Indeed. Though by the look of the armor some of you wear, and she kind of glances to Kiva and the scimitar at her side, you certainly seem to be well prepared to defend yourselves as well. She turns to Lillison and Metreon. Your bodyguards, I presume?
Oh, yes.
Kiva flashes a look at Metreon. It's sort of indiscernible. One of those, we'll talk later looks, but then just slowly slips the scimitar off of her shoulder and places it in her lap so that it's not in view of the table anymore.
Fiona turns her gaze toward Kiva. My dear, you must be truly skilled in your craft to have defended your compatriots and traveling companions on these what can be treacherous roads at times. Certainly, you have my respect, my dear.
Thank you. It's much appreciated. I take my job very seriously.
You know, they say it's hard to find good help, but I feel like we have really lucked out with Kiva and Erthrindir here.
He kind of looks up, gravy on his face.
Oh yes, and of course Amity. She's, again, finest storyteller you'll ever find.
Yes, of course.
We have been blessed in our company all around.
Wonderful to hear.
Yeah, it's been very nice. Speaking of that, you spoke earlier about your children. Am I to presume from your tone that their father is no longer with us?
Indeed, it is certainly a shame. My dear Nikolai, he passed away of sickness nearly 3 years ago now, I believe. And she turns and nods toward the portrait of the smirking nobleman in the parlor. A dashing man, and quite intelligent. Our dear Vallaki is poor for his loss.
He does look kind. I'm terribly sorry.
My
course,
condolences, boss.
I appreciate the sympathies. Lilison, you were continuing?
Oh, just giving her condolences.
Thank you. Truth be told, his absence would be a far sight easier, were it not for what the Baron's family has wrought upon my daughter.
You mentioned that.
I don't suppose any of you... Yes, forgive me, it might be too much to ask, but I don't suppose any of you are holy men or women, capable of perhaps some manner of exceptional healing ability?
Actually, we are not of the
heal-
clergy, but... I'm sorry, Amity, you were saying?
I can heal just simple bruises and wounds.
Impressive. A practitioner then, might I assume?
I guess a practitioner of something.
Although,
Enchanting.
mhm. But I presume you mean something less physical.
Yes, unfortunately. The illness is not to her body, but rather to her mind. It is terrible what happened. Forgive me, I don't wish to weigh down too heavily with the atrocities that the Baron has visited upon us. This is a celebratory occasion.
If you don't wish to talk about it, then I'm, of course, not, but we've all been through. I doubt any of us would mind if you do wish to spend a little time talking about it.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Well, as is custom for noble houses such as ours, there was arrangement made. I thought it best that, given the animosity between our houses, it might be best to unite our families. The good Baron seemed amenable, and so my dear daughter, Stella, she was engaged to the Baron's son, a troubled young man named Viktor Vallakovich. I knew little of the young Vallakovich at the time and thought it was to be a helpful opportunity. I thought that it'd be best for Stella, for our families, for all of Vallaki. But the young man was far more demented than I could have known. At first he ignored my daughter, but then he turned on her in abusive and terrible tones and behavior. The words that he spoke to her, the manner in which he treated her. I wish only that I could have noticed what was happening.
Kiva's
fear now-
gripping her glass, like, almost to the point where it could break.
I fear now that whatever I try, it's helpless to reach her. She closes her eyes. Forgive me again, an old woman's sorrow is not one that should trouble honored guests. It simply...
No, of
No,
course
that's
not. This is
important.
This is far too upsetting. But it is your home, and if anything, the least we can do is condole you.
Yeah. Yeah, Earthendeer looks a mix between confused and furious. He's just kind of exchanges a glance with Kiva and gives a nod. It's always nobles. He says very, very quietly. People like that think they can get away with trading anybody. Like, makes me sick.
It's not always nobles.
Well, no, but they have a lot more resources to hurt people when they try. God. But you're right, I'm sorry.
She sighs and shakes her head. Thank you again for listening to the natterings of an old, lonely woman. I fear that the madness in the Vallakovich line runs deep. Would that the Baron were the only cause of it. Perhaps one day we could look toward a brighter future, but from what our town has seen of his son, Why, I've even heard that strange flashes of purple and violet light have been seen emanating from the attic of the mansion. I cannot imagine what sort of foul sorcery they may be practicing, but the very thought that it might have been visited upon my daughter is just...
You think that her ailment may then be arcane?
I cannot say. I know that the words he spoke to her were twisted and cruel, and that I let her be subject to his abuses for far too long without my sight.
Erthrendir kind of considers something for a moment and then speaks up. Well, I'm no holy man, nor am I one who could actually heal that. But I do know a great deal about magic. If you'd like, I can see what I can discern. I know there's probably not many folks who can do that in a town as small as this. But of course, if you don't, then of course it's fine.
She offers you, again, that non-smile, the quirk of her lips, and gives you a small nod. I appreciate the thought, but nonetheless, I cannot help but fear that so long as a madman rules Vallaki, my daughter will have little solace to escape to, even if she no longer dwells in the throes of her illness.
May I roll insight on that? Or I don't. Erthrendir does not believe that.
So what exactly do you think can be done or to possibly prevent the Baron's rule from harming your daughter further? I mean, you seem to disagree with it, and you seem to care a great deal for her, so there has to be some solution.
Courageous words, my dear. And I confess I have dreamed of it many a time. Truth be told, whatever the outcome, Vallaki could be better suited in many other arrangements. Why, I personally would rather serve the devil than a madman.
At that, Kiva straightens up and, excuse me, do you have a restroom that I can go to?
She glances toward Hirleek and nods. If you wouldn't mind showing her to the outhouse. Or perhaps, of course. And Hirleek nods. Of course, my lady. Mistress Kiva, was it? Please, follow me.
Kiva immediately gets up from the table, and then, realizes that she's leaving in a little bit of a hush and, pushes her chair in and straightens out her stuff, and then leaves.
Yeah.
Speak of the devil, have you seen the way in which he tends to approach outsiders, ending with them possibly being killed or possibly not?
Listen, Doris Amity a very terrified look.
Lady Voctor frowns. Forgive me, I'm unsure what you might be implying.
I was just trying to stay safe. Amity sort of looks at Lillison I mean, you might have some information? Lillison?
We have been told many terrifying stories about what happened to travelers alone out on the road. Fortunately, we were lucky enough to escape any such matters ourselves, but we were wondering how badly we should fear.
Ah, of course. Well, one does what one can behind Vallaki's walls, but truly it is somewhat troubling to hear of the dangers that can lurk outside of our walls. I'm sure that, well, Lord von Zarevich does what he can, but his negligence has been somewhat glaring as of late. Perhaps more indication that a better voice in the Burgomaster's seat might be better at accomplishing our end than, well, the insanity of a smiling madman, yes?
With all due respect, my lady, you mentioned the Lord Zarevich's name almost separately from the rumors about travelers and the fates they encounter.
Oh, yes. Well, forgive me, I'm not sure I understand what you are suggesting.
Well, many of the tales say that he himself was the cause of much of this strife.
She ponders that for a second and then fixes a quiet, steady look upon you. My dear, stories tell many things. But I assure you, in my family's long history, Lord von Zarevich can be harsh at times, and yes, at other times negligent, but I assure you, whatever pains you may have suffered upon the roads, however unfortunate they may be, would that we had stronger leadership to perhaps appeal to Castle Ravenloft. We all might be better suited. And yes?
Am I to take it that he does not communicate directly with the leadership here then? You mentioned negligence a few times. I take it he doesn't rule directly then?
Not
Or
as
at least-
such. It is perhaps a shame that, well, there have been stories of towns that have fallen down a dark path. Talk of terrible offense, of monstrous actions by the leaders or citizenship. Why, to our very south, there was a village that has been abandoned for decades. Reportedly, it was due to the terrible offense of its burgomaster, which incurred the rightful wrath of Lord Zarevich. Myself, I truly fear that if Baron Vallakian continues upon his current offenses, it may be to invite future problems for our town beyond what already exist. I'm sure that neither of us wish to see such a thing occur.
Of course. By the way, do you happen to know anything more about that town you mentioned? Perhaps a name or a state of affairs, or how long ago this was?
She frowns. I believe it was.
If not, I
called-
understand.
No, not at all. I believe it was called Gerez. I'm not. Of course, my family's literature has some information on the history and geography. I know that beyond that, however, my knowledge is limited. It was abandoned, after all, many decades ago. Any of the people that might have remained, I'm sure, have ingratiated themselves with either Vallaki or Kresk, such that they were able to escape the catastrophe.
Thank you. That's... Go ahead.
Forgive all of our questions. They must seem very rude, but we are all very curious, and our dear Earthrinder here is a historian.
That I am. It's been pleasant to find a... Well, it's not... I am a bit affronted that there's not as much cultural memory around here as I'm used to, but that's understandable. I work among elves, not humans, and, well, you know, things get lost. It's understandable, but it's been fascinating hearing about this place. You know, a culture that evolves completely on its own within the mists is going to, of course, have some quirks, and my apologies, my lady, I'm rambling.
He
Not
doesn't
worry.
get out much, so it's to be expected.
Of course, and not to worry at all, my dear. It's I'm sure that you do what one can. It's quite interesting to meet a historian in the flesh. I confess that I do not know many within Vallaki. Perhaps that is the reason behind many of our town's shames and injuries, that we do not remember the past.
Well,
But-
of course, yeah. He kind of trails off, realizing he should probably shut up now.
Not to worry, my dear.
Speaking of the past, do you happen to know anything about a silver dragon who died nearby?
Dragon? I'm afraid not. I know that there is reportedly an old mansion to the west of here. I'm not familiar with the name, but legend does have it that a dragon did die there. Though the rumors today state that the place is quite haunted. I myself would not venture there, but I'm sure that intrepid travelers should find no terrible fears there.
Speaking of hauntings, have you yourself encountered any of the supernatural behind the walls of Vallakian?
Well, unfortunately, the only supernatural danger that I've witnessed is Well, the Baron's attack dog. I'm unsure if you're familiar with him. Izek Strozny, he is called.
The one with the arm?
Indeed. The fiendish corruption upon his physique is occasionally troubling, especially given the way in which he wields that over the populace.
We've only encountered him in passing, but he does have quite an air of intimidation about him.
Indeed. I fear that his intimidation has been wielded in quite a heavily handed manner in the past. In fact, he is, I might dare suggest, one of the key components of the Baron's continuing reign of terror.
Understandable.
Why oppose Baron Vlakovich when his right-hand henchman can melt your face into slag with but a touch? Terrifying, isn't it?
Quite.
Yeah.
Well, regardless.
This is fine goat, by the way.
It is.
Yes, please
Exceptional,
convey,
really.
please convey our compliments to your chef. I believe we understand each other, my lady.
I'm glad to hear that. And as she looks toward you, Kiva, the valet, Halik, leads you out of the house onto a small corner of the state where you see there a small, well-kept outhouse standing amidst a small cloud of mist. The man offers you a slight bow. Please, take the time that you require. Merely knock on the front door again, and I shall ensure that you are allowed entry. Is there anything you require?
No, thank you so much.
He bows his head again and returns to the estate.
So once he's clear of her, Kiva is just going to put her head in her hands and like half collapse to the ground. She's like breathing very heavily. Clearly the mere mention of Strahd has really affected her, and she was sort of teetering on edge of nervous breakdown just getting there, and this seems to have just pushed her over to the edge. She's like wiping the makeup off of her neck and she's crying, and it's very intense for a moment, and then she stands back up and she sort of like clenches a little bit and tries to regain control of herself. Sort of realizes what she's potentially exposed, so she tightens up her armor, wipes her face, sort of touches up her hair, and takes a long deep breath, and she's sort of looking towards the direction of the Blue Water Inn, and there's just something so very longing in her face. And then she goes back to the front door.
All right. As you knock, the door opens, Halik, welcoming and ushering you inside, and the rest of you see the door to the dining room open once more, and Kiva step through the door held open by Halik.
She's like very clearly been crying, but is trying to do that thing when it's very obvious, but she's trying to hide it anyway, and sits back down at the table and says, I'm so sorry for the interruption.
No problem at all, my dear. All of us have our certain needs. There's no shame in that. Regardless, I must confess, Personally, I myself am helpless to enact the change that Vallaki needs. It is difficult at times to see Izek Strozny tramping his way through the streets like a terrible beast, one who fancies himself a dark titan. I'm sure that such is his inevitable ego. Well, I'm unsure what I could possibly do about it. What of you? What do you think could or must be done?
I take it that he has the full force of the Baron's support and presumably not inconsiderable resources behind him. It must be a terrible burden to think about how he might be neutralized.
It is, though I fear it is not the resources that is at issue, but Strozny himself. He is a deadly individual, cruel and quite sadistic. Were he to be somehow removed from the equation, asserting peace in Vallaki would be but a trivial matter, but so long as Vlakovich's attack dog roams the streets with impunity, I'm afraid there's little hope for any of us to regain our town.
Well, would that we may all live to see the day when such a menace is removed from the streets.
Indeed.
My lady, if I may be so bold, what would you do if this menace was removed?
She ponders you for a moment, then takes a small sip of her wine, and at this moment you've realized that she hasn't even really touched the food on her plate, but she merely sips from her wine for a moment, then regards you with a cool, steady look that gives away almost no indication of expression. The straws need to be removed. I believe that, well, I would be more than capable to take care of the rest. But I feel that I have not the resources to achieve such a first step.
And what might you do for the person or peoples who may be able to remove him?
Lillison kicks Metreon under the table.
Kiva downs her entire glass of wine after he says that.
She regards you with slight interest for a moment. Well, I am certain that should Vallaki come under new leadership, there would be adequate favors for those who would help lift the dreary darkness from its walls. Speaking purely hypothetically, of course.
Of course. And hypothetically, would any of these favors be monetary in nature?
Make a persuasion check.
Sure
What?
thing.
Lillison kicks him again.
Come on. Whew!
Well,
21.
all right. Fiona nods. My dear, if such a hypothetical individual were to lift this madness over our town and help restore the loyalty of Vallaki to where it truly belongs, I am certain that some sort of financial compensation could be worked out. My family has, well, collected tithes and taxes for quite a number of years and can be quite generous to our friends.
Well, we do appreciate generosity. Tell me, in this hypothetical situation, how might you plan to lead the city out of this current dreariness?
Well, the first step would, of course, have to be the removal of Master Strozny. Beyond that, I cannot provide certain conjecture, but I can assure you that, should Strozny be removed, well, concerns regarding festivals of fiery sunlight, or whatever they might arise, would be consigned to the past, and our town's proper loyalties would be distributed to where they belong. And perhaps certain negligence of certain lords might be well corrected.
This is a lot of very interesting information and very interesting thought experiments that you have given us to ponder over. I believe we shall be considering them for a long time.
She raises an eyebrow at you. Perhaps, but my dear, surely by now you have seen the poor souls entrapped at the stocks.
We have.
Tell me, do you know of a man named Udo Lukovich?
I don't believe it's familiar.
There's an old woman at the church in town her son, a local shoemaker, was recently ran afoul of our dear Baron for certain unflattering remarks. They say that he rots in the Baron's mansion to this day, as the Baron purges him of the evil he believes to reside there. Master Lukovich is not the first, and I am certain he shall not be the last. There are always opportunities for sedition in the Baron's eyes, and I fear that so long as his reign of terror continues, others, such as Master Lukovich or my dear daughter Stella, shall fall under his sway.
Is there anyone that you know of who has been, for lack of a better term, successfully exorcised of their negativity?
She again regards you, shaking her head. My dear, negativity is one thing, but the imposition of facsimile, quite another. And she shows you again that pained, grimacing, fake smile. The Baron makes his point, I am sure, but in a town as large as Vallaki, there are always others that he and Strahd can find to crush. After all, I am certain that whatever madness drives them, it will not be satiated.
Well, Erthrendir kind of pushes his plate forward, having evidently stopped eating at some point after Strahd was mentioned. You've given us a great deal to think on, milady, and I think that regardless, hypotheticals or not hypotheticals, we will need time, either both to consider and if certain proposals were to be accepted, to prepare. So you understand, of course, that with a group such as ours, even with, of course, some of us being in a subservient position, and he shoots a look at Metreon and Lillison, discussion still must be had, and rule by consensus, or not at all.
Of course, we're not tyrants.
So, you'll forgive us if we need a little time. It's the way of elves, after all. We take things a little more slowly.
But of course, I am certain I can understand. But should reports come to my ears of a certain Master Strahd come to an unfortunate end, I will remind you that the door to Vokter House will remain open, should you desire suitable compensation. She offers Metron a small nod, then takes another sip of her wine.
Metron, who has cleaned his plate, even after the mention of Strahd, flashes back a smile at her and takes a sip of his wine as well.
Very good. Well, please, if there's anything left on your plates, please do feel free to finish it. I hope that David's cooking has done some good for all of you. I'm sure that your recent travels have not been kind to your feet or your bellies.
Yes, sir. You'll forgive me, of course. And Erthrendir will force himself to eat the rest.
The dinner has been most delightful and most educational.
And
I'm certain that it has been mutually informative, my dear. And she offers you a small nod. And as she does, Lillison, with your insight, you see that you glance into her eyes for a moment, and there's just a sense of coldness there, as a sense of calculation. Not the predatory sight that you saw behind Strahd's gaze, but there's just a chill behind that gaze that sends a shiver down your spine for a moment before she turns back to her wine and takes a long, careful sip and sets it back down.
This does not surprise Lillison at all.
All right, Fiona turns to her plate and continues to eat. But from what you can tell, it seems that she has resolved that the primary conversation has concluded.
Yeah.
Is there anything more you'd like to discuss with her or discuss at the table?
I was going to ask if there were like dessert forks and knives, or forks and spoons, he would Metron would kind of stick around. But if it looks like it's just kind of an entree sort of night, he'll look over to the others. With much to consider, we should also consider that we do have an early morning ahead of
We do. We should be going.
But of course, I hope that you enjoy your time, whatever travails or trials you might have ahead of you. I am certain you'll be more than up to the task.
You are very kind. And again, this has been a delightful and convivial evening, and your hospitality has been more than generous.
Kiva looks incredibly pleased to be getting out of there, but does offer a polite bow again to Fiona and just goes right to the front door.
Yep, Earthendeer will follow at a brisk clip after doing the same.
Fiona stands and offers a nod of her head. It has been a pleasure to have you, and of course, should we find that our interests continue to align, know that you can certainly find a friend at Vocta House. Good evening. And she gives you a small nod and a curtsy.
Metron, with the last of his wine, kind of tilts the glass to her to discretion, and he takes it back. But as he stands and walks around the table, he will, from Earthendeer's table setting, try to steal one of the knives.
Make a sleight of hand check.
Oh, God.
Come on, come on, come on!
16.
You quickly tuck it into your pocket. Let me check something real quick.
Here.
Interesting. Okay, Fiona gives no indication that she noticed. Her eyes seem fixed on Lillison and Amity as they make their way out of the room.
Perfectly splendid. Yeah, he'll follow Amity and Lillison and everybody else out of the house.
Lillison will, proceed to give her a polite smile, polite nods, until the group of them are out of the house and the door shuts.
The door closes tight behind you, and you are out into the quite clearly night of Vallaki.
At which point, Lillison says, "We are not doing this."
Gee, you think?
She's in league with him.
Even if she weren't, it is quite clear that she would use us as her cat's paw to murder this Strahd and then have all of us killed.
Earthendeer coughs.
What,
Perhaps
you think
we
she'd
should-
have us?
Perhaps we should save this for not on her lawn.
Of course. Forgive me.
He nods. It's understandable, just... That was a lovely dinner, wasn't it? I'd forgotten what goat tasted like. It's a lot better this time than the time I'd had it before, I'll tell you that.
When did you have it before?
Oh, well... Ranger orientation. They, kind of give us whatever other people don't want for provisions, so, you don't want good goat jerky is tolerable. You don't want to know what bad goat jerky tastes like. It's like someone's, brewed meat soup in an old shoe and left it out on a forest floor for 6 months.
Right, I'd rather not just throw up the delicious dinner I've enjoyed, please.
Of course not, my liege.
Yeah, that's right. Fall in line. Ring.
You did almost a convincing job of that, Metron. How was I?
You were perfectly fine, except for the end. He kind of playfully and very lightly boots your shin the way that you were booting his.
Well, and yes, before you all ask, I am not any sort of Lady Tornsale. There is no House of Tornsale. That's a ridiculous name.
Sure.
Oh, of course you're not really Tornsale.
Yeah, no.
I definitely believe you.
I actually rather like the name. And that's the only thing she says before she's like power walking back to the Blue Water Inn.
Speaking of that, Amity, Oriana?
Oh, yeah, I mean, everyone calls me Amity, though.
Oh. Well, so is Amity just a nickname, or I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but yeah, is...
No, it's not rude at all. So there's a tradition among some tieflings, and some people near where I come from, to come up with a name for yourself that's something that you aspire to.
And
You aspire to Amity?
Yes.
What's that even mean?
The common word, amity. It's like kindness, friendship. So, my mother, she was the only tiefling in the village before I was born, and originally people were suspicious around her, like eyeing coins that she paid with to make sure that they weren't counterfeit, or wanting to like only be with her when they were in groups. But she worked her whole life to build up a reputation in the village of kindness and generosity and community, and I want to follow in those footsteps.
Good on you, Dan.
Yeah, that's a good choice. And also, out of the virtues you picked for a name, you picked one of the more pleasing sounding ones. I would have had a bit of a harder time with kindness, the tiefling, or responsibility, the tiefling.
Yeah, originally I was just going to go with like nice, but then that's it all as a name. Yeah, you're completely right.
Earthendeer's just cracking up at this. All right. Nice.
Oh my god.
Oh.
This is... Now I know how you felt about that tattoo.
Yes, you do. Sometimes we all make mistakes. Fortunately, yours is the one you didn't actually make. You just thought about it.
I didn't brand it on my body, but no, trust me, no one thinks that your tattoo is stupid or anything. It's cool.
Well, I do, but thank you.
Metreon, during this whole exchange about tieflings and tiefling names, he's been doing his best to hide it, but he is, for anyone who's perceptive enough, is quite uncomfortable with it.
Well, at any rate, we should be getting back home. We got an early night tomorrow. Home? We've been here 2 days, and one of them, a vampire, tried to shove his hand through my chest. That doesn't qualify. Once we get back to the inn, we should get some sleep.
Metreon, should I be like rolling an insight check to see if I noticed your uncomfortableness, or what do you want?
Yeah.
Just your passive perception, I imagine. This would probably be noticed by Lillison and Kiva first.
Lilith notices and says nothing.
Neither does Kiva.
Yeah, Amity, what's your
that's
passive
on
insight?
brand.
Just 10 plus your insight modifier out of curiosity.
It is just 10.
Up to Metreon.
I'd say a little bit, not as much as maybe Lillison or Kiva, but you maybe see a little bit of discomfort, but he'll turn away and, before you can kind of retain too much of it.
I guess Amity will be like, so the Magnificent, maybe that's it for you, right? Did you because you want to be magnificent.
Oh, no, it's just a stage name, yeah.
She won't press.
Because he's already magnificent.
Of course.
Yeah.
You can't talk exception, so...
Nah. And as names go, I wouldn't want anything other than Metreon. It's got a nice flow to it. Don't hear many like it.
At this point, you find yourselves arriving down the darkened cobblestone mud street of Vallakian at the exterior of the Blue Water Inn. You can hear the sound of voices coming from inside, the clinking of glasses and tankards, and the golden light seeping in through the heavy shuttered windows. I presume you're all proceeding inside?
Yeah, before we get
Yes.
in, though, Metron will go towards the others. So, what are we doing about arrangements?
Right. We don't have enough money to rent a wagon.
Well, not just that, but for the night, because of the whole, Strahd having access to that room.
Ooh. I guess we'd all need to pile into the one. Or see
I don't
if
mind sleeping downstairs again.
Erthrendir gives a bit of a, mischievous smile and says, honestly, we can see if Bismarck and Irina don't mind a bunkmate. I'm sure, I don't know, we can put Kiva in there. It'd be fine.
Kiva just gives a look and says nothing.
We could probably put Kiva and Metron in there.
Ooh, even better. Yeah. There we are. Then we can just have us three in the old room. Works perfectly.
Honestly, I could sleep on the floor as well.
You're not sleeping on the floor. We'll drag the bed in there.
Look, perhaps it's best that I not go to Irina's room. I thought we were leaving tonight for the winery or early in the morning, and so decisions were made that were probably not the wisest. So I might actually just stay downstairs tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just teasing. I didn't realize.
No, it's fine. It's really nothing. She's just gonna go right inside.
Well, listen, I'll go back with them, and I'll let you know what happens.
But not in too much detail, please.
Don't worry, I'll just make it like a little picture book, maybe.
Please do not make a picture book.
And yeah, Metron
Do
will.
it.
Oh, don't worry, I will. Are we getting a drink
where?
first? Or...
Who's heading up to the rooms and who's heading into the tap room?
Erthrendir's heading up, and the moment Metron and Kiva are gone, he's just going to turn to the others and say, for people trapped in a horrible misty death trap, they do seem to have cottoned on to romantic dalliances pretty quickly.
I take it that's some people's favored escape from having to think about other things.
Yeah, no, suppose I can't blame them, but it's been like a week. Yeah, Amity?
Oh, Amity is staying in the tap room just to perform a little story before going upstairs.
All right, so Amity, Metron, and Kiva are entering the inn, and Erthrendir and Lilison are going upstairs?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so together you make your way forward and enter the inn as Lilison and Erthrendir make their way upstairs. The door opening into the brightly lit interior of the Blue Water Inn, and the patrons within greet you. It's actually a bit of a more cluttered scene than you've seen a few other nights. You see a number of Vallakian patrons at the bar and around the tables. You can see a few huddled in the corner, wearing dark clothes, kind of watching one of the tables that has been kind of stood by its center, with the other tables arranged in a sort of ring around it. Atop the table, you can actually see, wearing his cape of many colors, holding his cane in one hand and twirling it with a great flourish, the ringmaster, Rictavio. As his voice booms, "And so, when the full moon began to rise over the sky, the townsfolk were not but prepared for what could occur. But as the boy saw the light of the moon seeping in through his window, he gasped, for he knew the change was upon him. He felt the ears growing, the buck teeth splitting from his lips. And as the clouds parted and the full moon gazed down upon the land, the were-hare roared." There's a few jeers and muttering and a bit of clapping as a few people seem to be appreciating this. You see two young men you actually don't recognize. One of them, kind of tall with long braided hair that goes down almost to his waist, wearing a very fine, almost aristocratic green tunic. The one next to him, somewhat shorter man, but broader shouldered, with a beard that kind of thins down to a light brown goatee, a blue tunic of similarly fine make, and short cropped hair around his head. Both of them raising tankards. The shorter one raising 2 tankards in one fist, and the one with 2 tankards jeering, "Right, old man? What's the fucking buddy boy gonna do next?" The 2 of them jeer, kind of screaming happily, and then clink their tankards and just start eagerly guzzling down the wine as a bunch of others look around. Rictavio continues his story. A few faces turn toward you as you enter the tap room, but most of the attention seems to be on the performer.
Yeah, I guess maybe if we have kind of like a regular table, Metron will go to that as long as it's not occupied.
Yes, I think you can find one just kind of off to the corner, close to the bar. Danica from behind the bar gives you a small nod and a wave as she turns to clearing away some tankards and refilling them from the barrels behind the counter.
It's got to be the corner table. We're adventurers. That's a rule.
Really?
Back corner next to the window.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're gonna skulk successfully.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, you see as Rictavio continues his story, telling a terrifying but strangely comedic tale of a young boy who becomes a terrible werehare, a freakish rabbit that terrorizes the town over many days and nights, until finally it is slain with a sharpened carrot to the chest. The 2 drunkards that you've, again, not encountered before with the fine clothes, jeering all along, occasionally shouting loud, somewhat suggestive epithets, and just kind of seeming to have a very good time as the other patrons watch them somewhat balefully and take in Rictavio's story. But by the end of it, Rictavio gives a deep bow as he utters, "And I assure you, not a word of what I just shared was untrue. Remember the story of the werehare, for it could save your life someday." He bows again with a massive flourish, and there's a smattering of light, appreciative applause from the crowd. And Rictavio hops off the table and makes his way toward the counter of the bar, twirling his cane at his side.
You could give him a run for his money, eh?
Should go see if he would buy you a drink first.
And Metron was telling this to Amity.
Well, I don't know if I can give that a run for its money, but I can do something different, at least. Amity gets up to take the stage, as it were, the open mic night. And she's going to go ahead and perform this full story of the Emperor's New Clothes, not making any specific reference to the Baron, but she wants to sort of see how the crowd, see if they sort of connect some dots, try to gauge the public perception here.
Ooh, political dissent. Exciting.
I love it.
Obviously, Amity is not making absolutely no reference to any specific persons, places, real or fictional.
Of course. And so, as you spin into the tale of the Emperor's lacking clothes, you see the townsfolk turn toward you, at first with vague disinterest, and then with growing interest. You don't see a lot of smiles. Most of the townsfolk seem to be very muted, their eyes fairly dark, and, not a lot of mirth or amusement here, but they seem to be at least encaptured by their tale as they slowly drink their wine and watch you as the sound of your voice and the crescendo of your story bring a bit of light and excitement to the dim corner of Vallakian of the tap room. As the tale ends, you hear barks of drunken laughter from the aristocratic-looking young men. He's fucking naked! Oh, fucking sod! His brother cheering. Oh, that's what I like to see. What a fucking moron! The 2 of them cheer their tankards and then take another drink together happily as they continue listening to your tale. And by the end of it, there is again a assembly of light, appreciative applause from the crowd that then turns back toward their tables and begins murmuring as they return to their food and drink.
Does Amity get a sense for whether they were either connecting it in their own mind to the local political situation, and if so, what the local public perception of the Baron is?
Make an insight check.
Will do. Classic 1.
It's tough to tell. It's a bit of a tough crowd. They're not seeming to get in with the story as much as we've seen others. In fact, as you've looked through Barovia and Vallakian and traveled through these towns, you've noticed that quite a lot of the locals seem to have a very muted expression, a very muted reaction. You haven't seen a lot of smiles, not a lot of laughter. Most of the expressions just seem to be listening to the story, but whatever might lie beyond those dark eyes, it's impossible to tell.
All right, Amity returns to her friends at the bar. Well, you can make him feel, but you can't make him think.
I think it was brilliant, but maybe this isn't the crowd for it. It's maybe a little bit too highbrow.
Yeah, I get the feeling that if I just told a story about someone naked, they would have been more into it.
That's usually what happens at bars. Yeah, the naked stuff tends to sell more.
I can speak from experience. It's just the less clothes, the more tips.
I'm suddenly trying to picture your magic act.
Yeah, what's the wand look like?
It's about yay big, and I just make it disappear.
Ah, that must be very entertaining.
Where should we get? It's a drink, yeah. And
Yeah, I think drinks would be good.
Yeah. Well, Veteran wasn't actually waiting for you to confirm. He was saying that as he was getting up off the table and heading towards the bar.
All right, as you do, Danica greets you with a nod and a smile. Good evening. What can I get for you? The three of you getting something?
Yeah, just a full round.
Of course. Glad to put something together. And she moves and starts filling 3 tankards and slides them over to you. Just need to pay for 2. Amethyst is free. On the house for
I
such
think
wonderful
all of these
entertainment.
ought to be on the house, considering last night's affair.
My dear, I... Make a persuasion check.
20.
Yes!
Oh my god.
Danica sighs and rolls her eyes, and she just pushes the tankards toward you. I swear my husband running off on me will be the death of this business. Go on, take them before I change my mind.
Was my love.
Although I
Thank
will
you.
say that your friends should be quite pleased by what you find upstairs.
Oh. Yes, of course. Should I prepare them for anything specific?
No, not at all. Just, we wanted to make sure that conditions were quite livable when you returned.
Oh, much appreciated. And he kind of clinks the tankards together and then scoops them up and carries them back to the table.
All right, as you do, Ertherndir, I mean, by this point you've been upstairs for a while, but kind of flashing back briefly, Ertherndir, as you made your way up with Lilith and up to the upper balcony where you can see Amity beginning to take the stage, and the 2 drunken brothers kind of watching with interest as the other members of your party take their seats in the corner. Ertherndir, you make your way up the balcony toward your own room, and the door actually clicks open, and out pokes Erwin Mardukov, who kind of startles as he sees you in the corridor. Oh, good evening. Forgive me.
Hello. My apologies. I didn't mean to. I can come back.
No, not a concern. And as he lifts his hand, you can actually see he seems to be holding a hammer in one hand, wearing kind of like a smudged apron over his chest. I was looking over some of the fixes that some friends of mine and my wife had made. I think you'll find that, despite the discomfort of last night's events, you shall find that your rooms have been fully restored, at least as best as we can for now, given the short notice.
In a day's time? That's... Thank you so much.
Of course, son. We do what we can to make sure that the guests of the Blue Water Inn have the best experience we can provide. And after last night's events, I'm certain that, well, you'll be needing your sleep as best you can.
That is a wonderful work. I must ask, have these repairs been done in a way that would necessitate an official report of these events to the Baron?
Erwin blinks and then chuckles quietly. Not to worry, my dear. If you value discretion, I can understand. The repairs were performed by some friends of mine. There's no need to be concerned about costs or reporting or any of that nonsense. It is strictly to ensure that the rooms are up to the highest quality we can offer. No need to fear, my dear.
You're very, very kind.
Of course. Do let me know if you need anything. I fear that the stew might be burning in my absence, so I'll just nip on down to the kitchen. But do let me know if, or my wife, if you need anything while you remain. Oh, we have left some warmed buckets of water in the rooms for when you return, just in case you needed a bit of a wash.
Thank you.
Of course, you seemed interested by the service yesterday, so wanted to do what we can to make sure that we could put you at ease.
Earthrendeer nods, looking a little misty-eyed, and kind of heads inside.
As you do, you hear a voice crying from the tap room. Oi! What the fuck are you getting at? And listen, as you glance aside, you can actually see what seems to be a small stuffed animal lying on the floor a few feet away from the counter. One of the aristocratic young men, kind of rubbing his head and glaring up at the balcony, where you can see Brahmin Bray Mardakova kind of glancing over, eyes wide. Erwin just pales. Oh no, boys! What did I tell you about throwing things at guests? And he immediately, kind of races fast, walking out of the corridor, down the stairs, and vanishing from sight.
Well, in their respect, that was a beautiful shot.
Yes, they will be very good artillerists someday, but small boys.
Yeah, they're lovely. The whole family is.
They really, really are.
We got very lucky.
I must confess, I somewhat regret not setting out for the winery today and going to that dinner instead.
Well, likewise, but it got us information. We learned a number of things, actually, including a few that I don't think she realized she was telling us. Like the fact that she apparently has the sway to overthrow the guard force without us.
Yes, and you did. I mean, surely you, out of everybody, must have also understood that should we do her dirty work for her, the most natural thing for her to do would be to pin all the blame on us, outsiders and strangers, and have us killed.
Oh, naturally. We're foreign agents, inciting riots, inciting dissent. Goodness gracious.
We would most likely be the lever with which she gains control of the town guard.
But a lever she can easily snap when she's done with it.
Yes. I just very much hope that Metreon doesn't try to get in over his head without us.
I doubt it. He might get in. Nah, that's crude. I'm not saying that, but I don't think he's the kind to try and do something like that on his own. He's sly and he's capable, but doesn't have the force of arms for that, I don't think.
That is true. Well, in any case,
Earthrendeer kind of moves to close the door and then kind of shuffles a bit, wringing his hands together, and then takes up a position looking out the window and murmurs, "Hey, I'm sorry."
What?
Right, lead ends. For yesterday, I was unfathomably cruel. And while it was not a good time, and I don't think you're... He kind of shakes his head. I was an ass to you yesterday about after Strahd came in, and there were a lot of things I said that nobody deserves to hear, even if they are being a bit rude, and I let my temper get away from me. I'm sorry.
Lillison takes a step closer. She smiles a little bit, but, just like with Fiona, the smile is not going to her eyes, and she says, "No, I'm sorry as well. I was just stuck in that room with that wardrobe in front of the door, and I felt like I couldn't just open the door because Metreon was so scared, and I couldn't do anything, and you did what you could, and I'm so sorry that happened to you."
He kind of looks up, taken aback, and then just kind of sits down on the bed and pats a spot next to him. It's okay. It's not... I've been hurt. Well, not like that, but I'm not a stranger to wounds like that. It just But thank you. I'm sorry you were stuck there too. That was it feels like every time he comes, it's like whatever little camaraderie or facsimile of such we have just kind of shatters like sugar glass, and we're just 5 people and alone and very, very afraid. And I'm just... I don't need to add to your burden. You're already carrying quite enough, ma'am.
She sits down next to him, but she's not looking at him. Like, she is staring down at the floor and shaking her head, and she says, "That must be deliberate on his part. There's no way that's not deliberate."
Oh, the fact that he shows up every time we're starting to be marginally comfortable and rips things apart? Oh, for sure. And he's very good at it. I wonder why, though.
Why? What?
Why would he take the trouble? We can't hurt him. You saw what he did to Metreon's crossbow bolt. I'm pretty sure that if I were to shove a sword through his chest, he'd pluck it out while complaining about the craftsmanship. So, why does he bother? Like, trying to drive us apart or whatever.
I'm certain he is doing it because he can, and because it amuses him, and because he perhaps feels like he needs to stay in practice for something.
That's an angle I hadn't thought of. In practice for what?
Lillison looks a little bit alarmed, like maybe she said a little bit too much.
Erthrindir kind of sighs and looks down as well. Look, Kiva. Jesus, Lillison. It's okay if you've... I don't give a shit if you're needing to learn to manipulate people to get by. That is literally a good chunk of my last job. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's a tool. It's like a hammer or an axe. It's something you use judiciously and against the right targets, but you don't have to put on the, "Oh, I could never, ever think of steering someone for my own gain." It's just life.
Yes, I know, and I'm so glad you understand. You know, you remind me a lot of my older brother.
Do I now? What was he like?
He was... there was this tactician that he idolized, and I just loved spending time with him, so he would tell me about his studies of this man's life and history and tactics, and I would just listen because I wanted to be close to him. And this tactician won so many battles and skirmishes by just outthinking the enemy, and that's what Trevorin wanted to be like. And not to go against the world with force of arms, but with the force of the cleverness of his mind. He wanted it so badly. But you understand, it's not the sort of thing that you can just practice.
Not particularly. There's not really a school for it. You just learn by doing.
So, sometimes you just make opportunities where you can.
I get that. And I think I would have liked to meet your brother. He sounds like a splendid man.
When we get back, I would love to introduce you. I think the two of you would probably argue for a very long time first, and then you would be friends.
Oh, certainly. If he thinks battles are won by you can have all the tricks you want, but tricks have to be aided by military force, and if you don't have a military force, then yes, I'd like that, if you don't mind. And he gives a gentle smile. I just do hope we get out of here. For whatever front I put up for, mostly Amity, I don't feel too hopeful.
Oh, Lillison's smile has gone genuine, or at least more genuine, and she looks up at Erithrindir and then looks down again. I know that you must have sailed, at least, or have been around ports. Have you been in the Navy?
Oh, goodness, no. Oh, no. No, I would have. They would have seen. The Navy men I knew would have thrown me out after I failed at tying my first knot. No. Where I lived growing up, it was a place called Ofstra, a port on the Sea of Fallen Stars out east. And it's a lovely town, but you could not escape the sea in that town. So I grew up surrounded by sailors and sea shanties and the worst rum. Like, you have no idea. No one makes rum worse than people who are selling to sailors, but it's just kind of, it was kind of everything to me. That, not the sea itself, but kind of what came with it. It gave life and entertainment, and it's just kind of, it's always there.
You said you hated the forest.
Yeah, it's, for a lot of reasons. One is, if you haven't gathered by now, I really hate my job.
I had started to suspect, yes.
I don't have enough hours in the day to explain why, but in short, the place where I grew up isn't there anymore. My family and I had to move when I was in my early 50s. And we can't really go back.
I see. I'm sorry.
You don't have to be. It was a long time ago. But thank you. But yeah, no, if that's why the bits of Earthrendir that he seems to enjoy are ones from about the sea or the sky on a clear summer day, that's why. It was a lot of things for me.
I wonder if there's an ocean in this land.
I hope so. And he's looking down, and you see him kind of brush away a tear, and then kind of look down. Sorry, I don't talk to many people. I'm sharing too much. I'm sorry.
No, I want to hear more. I have so little experience with the actual world out there, and everybody we've been traveling with, their stories have been new to me.
He kind of visibly relaxes. Well then, you tell me yours and I'll tell you mine. How does that sound? Yeah?
There really isn't much to say about mine.
Now that I know is a lie. Even if it's not stories that are yours per se, my stories for the most part aren't mine, but there's things you care about or interested in, or I know there are, because sometimes the mask will fall and you'll just be bright-eyed for a minute. I don't need to know about whatever that was, but I'd like to hear about what interests you and makes you happy. That's more you than the other choices.
Well, I believe you could probably guess by now that I belonged to, well, my brother and I, we both belonged to a noble household. We did what we could, but it's not as if there were many real opportunities. And
Earthrendir gives a snort. Yeah, that, you move like you're noble born. This is kind of intentness of purpose.
Lillison winces a little bit, and she says, "No, we just served and witnessed and imitated because it was easier. It's easier when you can move like that when you're out in the world."
Oh, I'm so sorry. That was yeah. Oh, continue.
Well, there's really not much to say. I didn't interact with many people. I saw visitors come in every so often, and I loved to watch them. There was one time I was allowed to sit at a feast. It was the Feast of the Winter Star, and everybody in the household was allowed to just speak and laugh and enjoy. And I remember one of the guests was this famous duelist from far away. He was a dwarf, and I was too young to know any better, so I went up to him with a cocktail sword and asked him to duel me, and he was so kind, he obliged and let me win.
Oh, that is amazing.
But yes, I didn't really do much with my life other than read and until I left.
Why'd you go? I mean, I can think of some reasons from how you described it, but I'm curious.
I was forced to go. I couldn't stay any longer.
Mirthrindir nods. Maybe a story for another night, then. It's getting very late. But I'm very sorry.
Perhaps you can tell me more of your stories tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd like that. Thank you. I know I'm not a easy person to get on with, and I appreciate you trying.
Well, you're not the most difficult to get along with I've ever met, and besides, we have to. All we have here is each other, right?
He nods. Yeah, I suppose so. Good night, Lillison.
Good night, Erthrindir.
All right, and the two of you make your way to your rooms and beds. Erthrindir, you can see that your guest room seems to have largely been repaired. The glass panes replaced, and the wood, though still splintered in a few places, largely replaced with functional parts, though perhaps not particularly beautiful, but you feel pretty confident that you won't have a draft threatening your cold this evening. It's quiet and comfortable, and as you shut the door, shutting out the din and conversation of the tap room below, the safety and comfort, though at odds with the experiences you've had previously in this chamber, do their best to return.
Yeah, I'll go to bed.
All right. Is there anything more that those downstairs, Metron, Kiva, and Amity, would like to do before turning in themselves?
No, I mean, Metron's going to have maybe a couple more drinks. Definitely abusing that on the house gesture. But he will just retire to the bedroom he was in previously. And if Amity goes to that bedroom, he'll sleep on the floor.
Amity will note that she has previously dreamed of wolves and bats, and then wolves and bats have attacked, but she will not yet mention this.
That is fair.
Kiva's just going to head upstairs. She's going to take a peek at Irina and Ismark's door and just see if her little note is still tucked underneath it or not. And if it is, she's going to try to take it back.
The note is no longer there, or at least no longer visible.
She sort of does a "God damn it," and then just hurries off to her room. And you said there was warm water in there, right?
Yes, by now it's cooled a bit, but it's reasonably refreshing if you'd like to kind of wash your face.
Yeah, she's definitely going to clean up after the Wachter House fiasco, and then head to bed herself.
All right, and same for Amity?
Uh-huh.
All right, with that, each of you turns in for bed, preparing yourselves for an early morning the next day. And that is where we'll take a break.
Hey!
Backstory.
Yep!
Hey!
There's been so many delicious name drops, lore drops. I'm thriving so much.
Can I get the spellings on all these last names?
Yeah, I definitely want all spellings.
We gotta post those.
We could put it into the subreddit where you can go
Yes.
to discuss this episode.
Yes.
I put the link
Standing
in
plug, Kaya.
the chat, guys,
Wait,
for
what's the
episode 12's
URL on
discussion
that?
thread. It's
Hashtag
reddit.com/r/twicebittenDND. The link for the discussion thread for this episode is in chat, as well as the link for submitting questions to our After Dark. I'm sure you guys are thinking of a lot of questions after hearing all of this stuff, so we want to make sure we get those in.
I have no questions. I know exactly what's going on, and it feels...
Oh, hush, hush, hush.
No, you don't, Dreadnought. I haven't actually told you, like, any of this.
That's fair.
Yeah, actually, same.
So players
Alright.
in our secret channel, we're still going to carry out that plan. Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
Plan,
Dragon does not have to know.
Yeah,
plan
no, no,
Sigma
no.
Delta today.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, damn it. I thought it was Sigma Beta.
No, that's
We had
next
to
week.
improvise.
Fine. I was really excited.
Yeah, but
Alright,
that
whatever.
story about the where hair got told, and now we gotta, adjust our
Yeah,
plans. And
You people are crazier than Vargas Vlahovic.
Yes.
how
love it.
dare you?
Probably right.
That makes
Just
sense,
think
yeah.
that because I'm so sane.
All right, on that note of excessive sanity, we will pick this back up after a 15-minute break. Until then, do enjoy a few other messages from our D&D community, as always, including a short video that I've prepared discussing, as many people have requested, how I approach the first preparations for Vallaki while running Curse of Strahd. It was an annoyingly long video, but thanks to Kaya's excellent editing assistance, I managed to get it down to a manageable length, so hopefully you all enjoy that and find it informative. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and we will see you all back here soon. Hi, I'm Dragnacarta, DM of Curse of Strahd Twice Bitten and author of Curse of Strahd Reloaded. Today, I'm going to show you how to prep Vallaki in 1 hour or less. It's a tall order for the second longest chapter of the campaign, but let's give it our best shot. Now, I'm going to assume that you've read the full Vallaki chapter and have a basic understanding of how things fit together. Now, let's take a pair of pruning shears to this overstuffed settlement and learn what's really important for your player's first visit. Curse of Strahd is a sandbox-style module, and Vallaki is a sandbox within that sandbox. It can be hard to juggle so many hooks, characters, and choices at once, which is why we'll be using Sly Flourish's Lazy DM method to outline our prep. If you don't know what this method is, it's an approach that involves taking brief, basic notes on notable locations, NPCs, secrets, scenes, and encounters that your PCs might find in an upcoming session. If you haven't used this method before, I encourage you to learn more at slyflourish.com. Now, which things do we want to include in our session plan and which things do we want to leave out? 2 principles will guide our reasoning here. First, the information you give your players determines how they act and react. Second, the only information your players have about your world is the information you give them. These ideas help us do something powerful. Eliminate all information that we don't immediately want our players to engage with. This keeps our time spent preparing out-of-game content manageable and keeps our heads clearer while running the actual session. To use these tactics, we need to know the psychological and practical foundations we're working with, your player characters. Start with the easy stuff, race and class. Barovians are xenophobic. Are any of your PCs non-human? Jot that down. Are any of your PCs good-aligned clerics or paladins? Those are prime targets for the Bones of St. Angel quest. Do you have any bards? They may take an interest in Rictavio. Next, look at their personalities, ideals, and flaws. Do your PCs consider themselves adventurers or mercenaries? Do they fight for truth and justice? Are they cowardly or brash? Imagine how each PC might interact with specific NPCs and which hooks they might bite. Finally, look at their goals and motivations. Why have they come to Vallaki? What are they hoping to accomplish? Feel free to just ask your players these questions between sessions. You might be surprised by just how much help they're willing to give. There are a lot of locations the players can visit throughout Vallaki, but we can prune them to a more manageable handful. The town gates are an easy yes. Assuming the PCs are coming from the village of Barovia, they will inevitably pass through the eastern gates. Vallaki also lists potential random houses the PCs could explore, but the chances they will are small. strike them out. St. Andrew's Church? Variable. If you have a cleric or paladin, they may be interested in a local church, but otherwise, strike it out too. The Blue Water Inn is an easy yes. After all, PCs and inns go together like moths to a flame. The Burgomaster's Mansion and Wachthaus are tougher. If you have a PC who loves politics, consider including them. Otherwise, they're likely too much to worry about now. Strike them out. Arisek Stockyard might come up if your players want to buy supplies. A tentative yes. The Coffin Maker's Shop. Unless you expect your players to visit the church and trigger the Bones quest because they have a good aligned cleric or paladin, you can cut this. Blinsky Toys is a personal choice. As written, no hooks actually lead here. You can exclude it. There's plenty of time to meet Blinsky later. The town square is difficult. If your PCs explore the town, they can wind up here, but there aren't really any specific reasons to do so. I would prepare it though, just to be safe. Finally, the Vistani camp. As written, the PCs can learn of its location from rumors in town, but they'll likely have no reason to visit. I chose to include it because my PCs were interested in escaping Barovia, and I knew they would want to learn just how the Vistani leave Barovia at will. It's up to you whether it makes the cut. Just remember, without the aid of local guides like Sildar, finding the encampment at all will be difficult. You can run these locations straight out of the book if you so choose, but if you'd like to prune them further, you can apply the same principles on a smaller scale. Will the PCs explore every room in the Blue Water Inn? The tap room and guest rooms are a safe bet, but it's unlikely they'll wind up in the Mardikov's rooms or the stable. Cross off any unlikely areas and worry about them later. Determining the non-player characters your players might encounter is far easier. Note which NPCs live at each location you've chosen. At the church, the PCs can meet Father Lucian, Mileva, and Yeska. At the inn, they can meet Erwin, Danica, and your choice of Soldar and Yevgeny, Rictavio, and or the Wachter brothers. The Arisek Stockyard hosts Gunther and Yelena Arisek, while the PCs can encounter Izek Strozny at the town square. Finally, the PCs can also meet Aragal, Luvash, Alexei, and Casimir at the Vistani encampment. The town also has one wandering NPC, Ernst Larnak, who stalks the PCs when he learns of their arrival. And finally, as the book notes in Chapter 2, Strahd's spies watch the PCs every morning and every night. Potential spies include disguised Vistani, werewolves in human form, charmed Vallakians, or swarms of bats. Now that we know which locations and NPCs might come up, decide which secrets to use. You'll want to review the Barovian lore and Vallakian lore tables, relevant NPC bios, and location notes. First, choose which secrets you want to give your players. For example, you'll want to tell them that they can find rooms at the Blue Water Inn. You'll want to introduce them to Valaki's tradition of festivals, its unique justice system, and the danger of Izek Strozny. This meshes well with the Festival of the Blazing Sun, a key event approaching in 3 days' time. You might also want to let them know that Vallaki has hunters who know the Svalich woods well, in case they need a guide later, and that the Vistani camp lies outside of the town's borders. You should also prepare answers to questions your PCs are likely to ask. Once they learn of the Baron, they might ask if he has any enemies. Be prepared to tell them of Fiona Wachter, but if you play up her connections to Strahd, you can discourage your PCs from visiting her too early. Remember, this is a dynamic process. If I expect the PCs to learn of the missing wine at the Blue Water Inn because they will likely introduce themselves as adventurers, I might go back and add some basic prep for the Wizard of Wines as well. I can also choose to hold this information back, and have Erwin approach the PCs on a later day to reduce my burden. Your session plan is a living document, so update it to suit your needs. Next, brainstorm some basic scenes that involve these locations or NPCs. You don't need to be exhaustive, and you certainly shouldn't script them. Rather, this is a way to assess your resources and expectations. The PCs will likely pass through the gates and learn some basic information about Vallaki. From there, they'll probably pass through the town and get a feel for the area as they make their way to the Blue Water Inn, where they can purchase room and board. They might speak with the Vallakian hunters, or encounter Rictavio if you choose to place him there. If they have high passive perception, they might spot Ernst Larnak on a subsequent day. Meanwhile, we could see an initial encounter with Izek in the town square, a shopping trip at Arisek Stockyard, or a conversation with Luvash or Casimir at the Vistani camp. You can also consider scenes that can take place at any place or time. For example, an NPC might warn the PCs to avoid breaking the Baron's laws. You might also prepare a Strahd encounter if you think he has reason to appear. There are few combat encounters in Vallaki. If your PCs don't have the Bones of St. Angel quest, the only remaining combats include the town square. If you'd like to avoid combat in the first session, go ahead and cut the town square from your notes. Otherwise, you'll find that the town square has two potential encounters. First, if the PCs are seen freeing the prisoners from the stocks, Izek rallies all the town guards and orders the party to leave Vallaki. Remember, this can happen at any time, so don't feel like it needs to happen here and now. Second, if the PCs bring Irina to the town square while Izek is there, he will attempt to take her to the Burgomaster's mansion by force. You don't need to plan these potential combats exhaustively, but once you know they might happen, make sure to prepare tokens, a battle map, and any stat blocks you might need. When all is said and done, you'll have a basic list of major elements you expect your PCs to find in Vallaki and an understanding of how to run them. You can further expand your notes if you choose, but once you've reached this stage, you've successfully tuned out the noise, making your job far easier. As long as you focus on manipulating player psychology through incentives, hooks, and information, you'll rarely be surprised. Instead, like a proper villain, you'll feel cool, confident, and well prepared to give your PCs a terrifying ride. Strahd would be proud. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Curse of Strahd Twice Bitten. Before we begin, as always, we just have a few quick announcements to get to. As first, a quick shout out to our virtual tabletop sponsor for this campaign, Foundry VTT, which just released an outstanding new update, dynamic lighting, a whole lot of awesome stuff, so definitely go check them out. It's great to see that they're continuing to improve and upgrade their code base, and there are a lot of cool new features coming out, so definitely give them a look if you have not. Twy, as always.
Hello, everyone. Now, if you aren't subscribed to this here stream, then you probably should, because it helps us and helps the person who plays me get along and otherwise make this the best experience it can be. So if you want to grab that Amazon Prime and give us that sub, we would be very appreciative. And by doing so, you get a lot of wonderful emotes, like a Nat 20 and a Nat 1 that Jack put together, which are splendid. Thank you so much, and with that, Linus.
Oh, wait. Do I thought my only announcement was at the top.
Nope,
I
you're
read
right.
quickly. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's the After Dark thing again. We're going to have the After Dark, our behind-the-scenes episode where we answer viewer questions and talk about what we've done so far on Thursday, October 29th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. for the West Coasties. You can watch live here or here on Twitch or catch the VOD on YouTube. And you can submit questions to us this time in a Reddit thread, which you can find on our subreddit, r/TwiceBittenDND.
All right, thank you, Linus. Serena, you got the social stuff.
I do indeed. So as I announced earlier, we are doing a 13th episode special giveaway of the Curse of Strahd revamped box set. The giveaway is exclusively on Twitter, so you have to like and follow us on Twitter. You have to like and retweet the tweet that I will put in the chat description again in order to be qualified. The giveaway closes October 30th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the winner of the box set will be announced on stream during our Halloween episode the following day. 1 entry per person, please, and good luck to everyone who's already entered. As Linus mentioned, we have our own subreddit now, reddit.com/r/TwiceBittenDND. We have a full episode list, asset library, live episode discussion threads, future YouTube and podcast episodes, and we definitely love all of the community discussion we've had so far. We encourage you to keep that going. It's really cool to hear all of your theories and to be able to talk through everything with you. As always, you can submit artwork, ads, and memes to our Gmail, twicebittencos@gmail.com. And the Deadpool is always open until one of us meets another untimely end, and I will put that link in chat as well.
All right, thank you very much, Serena. And Kaya, I think there was something new during the break that you might want to talk about real quick.
Yes, and if I knew that Twy was going to be giving his announcement in his character voice, I would have prepared something more relevant for Lilison, but I haven't. So speaking of character death, as part of our Halloween episode, we are putting together our own community March of the Dead. So if you have a PC who, like Lilison, has died in Barovia, whether it was your PC as a player or whether it was part of a party you DM'd for, we invite you to submit their name and details at tinyurl.com/marchofthedead. And if you have artwork of them, please fill out the form first, and then also email that artwork to us at twicebittencos@gmail.com with the subject March of the Dead - and then their character name. And we will feature it alongside the character info on Halloween. Once again, that is tinyurl.com/marchofthedead.
Thank you very much, Kaya. And I think with that, those are all the announcements that we had. So thank you to everyone for sticking around. And without any further waiting around, let's dive right back into Twice Bitten. So, a lot of you turn in for the night to your rooms, slowly slipping into dreams and slumber. The soft lull of the inn outside slowly returns to a dull quiet and silence, a peaceful sound that hangs over the night. Looking out the windows, the shutters closed, there's little wind, the sky outside misted but still. They are dry and bereft of the dreary drizzle that you've seen falling down. However, As you slowly slip into unconsciousness and the dream's taking you, Amity, you find yourself falling into darkness and then slowly opening your eyes as you awaken in a familiar place.
Familiar.
Yes. You feel yourself settling on the ground, and as you look around, you see soft mists curling and swirling around your feet. And as you look around at the dark trees in the distance, the old rustic structures in the perimeter, you recognize the old farm that you saw in a previous dream. The old sagging structures cast in shadows from overhead. And you can see before you the old wooden hen house, the emblazoned insignia of the sun upon its sides. This time as you open your ears, you can hear the soft squeaks and chittering that echo, louder as you can hear the soft sounds of the mice you now know to be lingering inside. And you see once again the door is open.
I think Amity does not realize that this is a dream, but might remember that there's the good bats in there.
So what is Amity doing?
Are there bats in there? Amity sort of cautiously.
You do not currently
peeks.
see bats, no. Are you peeking inside the hen house?
Yeah.
All right, you peer inside, and as you can see, the walls and ledges of the hen house where ordinary there would be nests. You instead see small bits of hay upon the ground, as well as small sticks that have been set up almost like rows of long seats or pews set up in an amphitheater-like setting around the far end of the hen house. There you can see, standing beneath a carving burned into the wood, a similar mouse with clean white fur and a golden sun painted into the fur of its chest, holding its arms wide and squeaking cheerily as the mice around it shift and chitter and squeak. There's a calm and peace for a moment, and then you feel a chill slowly slip down your spine. In the distance, from the sky overhead, you can hear the faint chittering and squeaking, and then the distant shriek as you hear the flapping of leathery wings fast approaching.
Of course. Amity's gonna try to hide in the hay.
Make a stealth check.
Already? 15.
All right, you scurry underneath the hay as the mice around you barely spare you a second glance. A lot of them still directed to the display at the back end, the center of the hen house. You can hear the leathery wings growing closer, the chittering and squeaking approaching, and as it grows louder, the mice begin glancing around in shock and surprise and terror beginning to grow on their faces. They begin scurrying, shifting uneasily, and then the first bat breaks through the open door of the hen house, screaming its leathery wings wide, and dozens of cries and screams of fear and terror erupt from the mice around you. They begin shrieking, some burrowing in the hay as you have others fleeing outside into the darkness of the foggy night beyond. You can see dozens of gray and white mice flooding outside, more bats swooping down. You can't see them as you did before, but you can hear them. You can see more of them even inside, speared by the bats that managed to stuff themselves into the interior of the hen house as others still flood outside, blood beginning to pool down to the ground. You can hear smoke beginning to crackle. You can see just peering faintly through the bit of hay, you can see the mouse with the sun upon its chest hold its hands wide. And then you hear the dark flapping of immense wings. The chill down your spine becomes an icy cold, as if your whole body has been plunged into a glacier. And glancing just faintly out of the door of the henhouse, you can see darkness fall, even obstructing the silver light of the moon as a blackness covers the area outside. There's a stillness and a silence for a moment. And then a massive weight slams atop the roof of the henhouse, sending it quaking and shuddering, dust sifting down from overhead. You can see the old boards over you creaking and buckling beneath an obvious, incredible, immense weight. And then you hear a low, rumbling roar that erupts into a piercing shriek that tears at your eardrums.
I've got to get out of here. The enemy gets out of the hay. Stealth isn't going to work if everything's just crushed under this thing. And she runs out the door. She looks back. What is this thing?
As you make your way to the door, kind of scurrying free of the hay as best you can and doing your best to escape the chaos, there's a sudden thud, a slam, and you hear the crunching of wood, and you instantly skid to a stop as you see a massive, hulking, dark shape, a massive shadow filling the doorway, the entry to the hen house. Slowly, it begins to push its way through the door, its massive, swollen bulk piercing as the boards buckle beneath its volume and size, and you catch for a moment the sight of a great black form, twisted and terrible, with burning eyes that bore into yours, and you feel yourself falling, and falling into darkness. A sea of endless crimson blood that descends and ascends all around you before you slowly sink beneath its waves and lose yourself to unconsciousness.
I didn't get to see what it was.
You did not. It was close. You remember seeing a massive shadow the last time, but this time was the first time you've seen it.
Okay, so burning eyes, black form. I assume Amity wakes up in a cold sweat.
She does, yes. The cold, dark room around you is silent.
And remind me who else is sleeping in the same room. I know at least Metreon.
I think that would be Metreon and Lillison's room if you're with me. Unless Lillison's sleeping somewhere else.
If Amity wanted that bed still, Lillison will...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, Metreon had already offered her his bed and took the floor if she wanted to do that.
No, I think Lillison would go to the tap room anyway.
Okay.
All right, so Amity, you wake up by your own in the bed. Of the
Amity's going to wake just the closest person, Metreon.
At this hour, what I guess what hour is this? Is like midnight or later? Or
by now, it's probably sometime around the middle of the night.
Okay, yeah. So probably at this time when you wake up, he is already up. You see that he has already washed off his makeup, and he's sitting on his bed, shirtless, and appears to be tattooing himself, stick and poking himself with quill and ink.
You're already awake.
Mm-hmm.
Did you manage to sleep?
Yeah, a good day.
I don't want to panic you, but do you think that vampires can control dreams?
Maybe, probably.
It's just because, I mean, it could be a coincidence, but 2 nights ago, I had this dream where a big wolf was chasing me, and then the next day, we met Strahd for the first time, and some wolves chased us. And then the next night, I had a dream where a bunch of bats attacked me and a fawn, and then, a bunch of bats attacked us. And just now, I had a nightmare where these mice were, worshipping a wooden sun god. And then a bunch of bats attacked. And then some huge, bulking figure with burning eyes and just a shadowy form attacked.
That does sound concerning. And you notice that he's not looking at you at all. He is very much focused on what he's doing right now.
So just be ready in case that actually does happen.
Will do, love. You should get some sleep.
You don't think it's going to happen? Oh, that makes sense. It's probably just a coincidence. I mean...
It may or may not. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Well, I guess maybe it's just me, but I'm inclined to think that things are less of a coincidence, typically. All right, I'll try. Amity's going to lay down, but I don't think she's going to fall asleep.
Okay.
All right, I'll try. Amity's going to lay down, but I don't think she's going to fall asleep. Amity's going to lay down, but I don't think she's going to fall asleep. Amity's going to lay down, but I don't think she's going to fall asleep. Amity's going to lay down, but I don't think she's going to fall asleep. She's watching the window.
All right. Metran, how much longer will you remain awake finishing your tattooing?
He only stays up about an hour, and then after which he will tidy his things and go back to sleep.
All right. Linus, do you think Amity is trying to stay awake the rest of the night, or will she probably eventually lose her battle and fall back asleep again?
She'll probably eventually lose her battle and fall back asleep again.
All right. Metron, you can see, glancing over toward Amity in her bed, her eyes closed and her chest softly rising and falling. And with a nod, you turn to yourself and slowly settle back into your own place. Closing your eyes as you feel the sore aching on your shoulders and arms where the new tattoos have bitten to the flesh, and slowly close your eyes and do your best to let sleep take you. As you do, you feel yourself falling into sweet unconsciousness as the darkness takes you, and then slowly opening your eyes once more as you find yourself standing upon a small stone platform, surrounded on all sides by a dark, inky void. You hear a soft hiss, and as you glance down, you see colors rustling over your skin, and you can see the new tattoos that you've planted there are moving, shifting, and dancing around your flesh, almost as if they're alive, snaking their way across your form and tightening and expanding like they're breathing.
Yeah, Metron will watch this happen to his body, but he'll have that moment, but also then look around and see that he's in this void. Does it feel familiar to him? Is it?
It does. You feel familiar to the first night that you gained these tattoos, the darkness that you waited in, and as you feel yourself slowly recognizing the cold darkness that surrounds you, you hear a voice echoing through the dark behind you. Your new artwork is admirably performed. If nothing else, I seem to have selected one who's capable enough to bear my marks.
Yeah. It just feels strange to me.
You turn around and you see there the dark cloaked figure that you've seen on a previous occasion. You can't see the skeletal limbs tucked into the sleeves as they are. Its head bowed so that you cannot see below the impenetrable darkness of its hood. But try as you might, you can't escape the feeling that it is very carefully regarding you from within those shadows.
Why am I doing this to myself? You've got something to do with this? Tell me, please.
Every contract must be written by some means, engraved in words, engraved in ink. But I myself have preferred to find my engravings of a more intimate nature. This way they find themselves to be quite more difficult to wriggle out of.
I'm not trying to cut you out of a deal or nothing, but I just need to know what the fuck's going on.
It would seem that in that respect, our curiosities align. Last we spoke, I arranged a task for you to complete. Your findings. Report them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I haven't really had much of a alone time with her to ask her about it. It's been a really hectic kind of couple of days, what with getting attacked and all.
There's a pause for a moment, and then the voice speaks. Do you take me for a fool, dear Punch?
Stop fucking calling me that.
If secrets you wish to embrace, then secrets you must find.
I'm not fucking keeping a secret from you. I'm not. I'll do what you ask, but I need time.
There's a pause, the head tilting slightly as if listening to something, and then you see the sleeve slowly part and one hand moving toward you. You see a single bony hand emerge from the dark sleeve and then twist, its fingers contorting very faintly. You watch as suddenly the spiraling tattoos across your torso and arms, neck and shoulders suddenly flare and then twist and contort. And as you watch the elegant spiraling text and runes forge together, becoming chains of language, you feel them tighten, wrapping around your body. And as you watch the symbol over your chest of the triangles slowly contorts and then begins to press inward, sinking and pushing against your chest as though clutching around your heart. You feel your heartbeat slowing.
Yeah.
Please, do not tempt me, boy. You have been given great gifts, but need I remind you that relationships can be terminated if one does not uphold them in good faith. So please, before we conclude this dalliance, tell me, Punch, what you intend to do.
I'll ask her what happened, and I'll let you know. I promise.
The figure's skeletal grip slackens slightly, and you feel the chains instantly relax, relinquishing their hold, and you slump to the floor, gasping for breath, your heart pounding in your chest. The figure you watch slowly begins to dissolve into shadows. Good. See that you do not disappoint me. Slowly, the platform below you grows dark, insubstantial, paling as the shadows wisp away from you in a storm and a swirling whirlwind, until you're left with nothing more than a void and your own thoughts to haunt you, as you sink once more into darkness until morning.
Party.
Metreon, you, what feels like minutes, hours, or years later, you slowly open your eyes. And when you do, you can just faintly see that it's still dark outside, but it's slowly growing lighter. Dawn is approaching. The rest of you come to wakefulness as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he wakes up before everybody else, he'll let Amity sleep in, but he'll quickly put on his paint and dress himself, don his armor, and head towards the tap room.
I think Earthrendeer's already there, just kind of head buried in a book, eyes bleary. Morning.
Yeah. We should be getting on then, yeah? We wake up the others?
Right. Yeah, sorry, I didn't have the heart. I peeked in. Y'all were all kind of out. But, yeah, sorry. And he'll stand up. Let's go get him.
Yeah, I'll be up there in a minute. Sorry, I just woke up. I'll sleep. You don't. Yeah, just, I'll be down here.
Yeah. Earthrendeer nods, and then kind of his brain sparks, and he looks down. Are you all right? You look like you've seen several ghosts.
Just bad dreams, no doubt.
Goddamn understandable, that's what they are. All right. I'll get him. Here, I'll get him. You get some breakfast. And he will head upstairs and wake up the others.
And as he heads up, and once Earthrendeer is clear of the tap room, Metreon will take a moment to gather himself in this dark space, and seeing, I suppose, seeing Lillison passed out somewhere in the tap room, he will move somewhere near here.
Yeah, I think she's probably like sleeping under a table or something. Is Kiva also sleeping in the tap room?
Kiva did come downstairs and sleep in the tap room after her bath, but she's also awake. She's sort of sitting, I would assume she's sitting at the table where Lillison is underneath, and she's just sort of writing away in her journal.
Metron will sit across from Kiva and notice Lillison down on the floor. Will move his feet accordingly. We should get a move on.
No, we should. I'll wake her up. And are the others coming?
Yeah, Randy's go and get Amity and Truffle, but he'll be back down, I'm sure.
Okay. So Kiva sort of gets up and crouches down next to Lillison, doesn't touch her, but just goes out. Lily, it's time to go.
Already?
I know it's early, but it's better if we go now before we get caught up in all this festival nonsense.
Oh, yes. All right.
Are our guides here?
So who was going to get Amity? That was Airthrandir, right?
Yep.
All right, Amity, I presume you're easily awoken?
Yes, Amity and Truffle rejoin the party.
All right, Airthrandir and Amity, as you make your way out of the door and down the staircase, you can see standing in this courtyard beside the well in front of the Blue Water Inn, Soldar and his companion, just kind of standing there wearing their fur coats, bows and arrows strapped to their shoulders. Soldar has his arms crossed. Yevgeny is just kind of staring up at the sky. And as you approach, Soldar grunts and nods. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
We go, yes?
Yeah, we're just gathering the rest. We won't be long. Thank you for being prompt.
Good. We wait. And he turns back to kind of lean on the well.
Men a few words, apparently.
All right, the two of you make your way into the tap room and see the others there waiting for you.
Morning. Y'all ready?
Yeah. Our guides here then?
Yep, by the well. Look a lot more awake than we do.
Yeah, I suppose they're used to this kind of thing.
Yep. Do feel better having them on the roads, though.
But yeah, I mean, we know they're wolves.
That's the hope. Shall we?
We shall. Is Lillison still asleep or semi-asleep?
Lillison is, if not completely awake, at least like mobile now.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
On we plow.
Right. The five of you make your way out the door. There you can see Soldar and his companion waiting. Soldar gives you a nod as you emerge. All right. You have gold, yes?
Oh, yes. Yeah, here. And Lillison will dig into her coin purse and pretty much just like turn it upside down and empty it out into her hand and hand over the 5 gold.
He inspects it for a moment, holds up one of the gold pieces and kind of bites down on it, nods. Good. We leave then. Where are we going?
Wizard of Wines.
Good. Easy to navigate. Stay on the road. Do not go far.
Excellent.
Oh, are we also looking into that encampment?
If we can make it, but I think do our job first.
Yeah, this is...
Well, how is the Vistani encampment along the way to the winery?
They said it was south.
It is not far. Vistani camp is just south of town, but you take a trail to get there. Only a few minutes. Winery is not too far either.
Maybe let's just do the work first. Get a gold, and then on the way back, maybe we can splinter off and detour, or come back here.
Yeah, that seems
if it's
more
too dark.
sensible.
Yeah, Kiva turns to the gentleman and says, would that be permissible? Would you be able to guide us there too on the way back?
He shrugs. You have gold, you'd pay for a service. We take you there if you want.
That's good to know.
Right, we leave then?
We leave.
Yeah.
Alright, he nods to his friend and they turn and begin making their way. And as they do, you hear the click of a door from behind you. And as you turn and look, you see Ismark holding his fur coat around him, kind of exhaling, his breath wisping slightly in the chill air. And he kind of steps out, kind of squinting against the gray light of the morning. You can see stepping up behind him is Irina. Ismark offers a small wave. Sorry, we hopefully we're not too late to see you off.
No, just in time, love.
He shoots you a grin and a smile and makes his way down the stairs, Irina behind him. So, well, I did want to apologize for not being able to come yet, but just wanted to say that we hope you have safe travels and that we can see you back here soon, yes?
That's the plan. Maybe we get back here tonight enough and we see what this festival's all about.
He nods and shrugs. I suppose that we will tell you what we find. It seems, if nothing else, to be an interesting sort of occasion.
Yeah, just be careful and have a good time.
Of course.
Or else.
Hopefully that nothing will come of that, but we'll do our best to make a good time out of it.
Yeah.
As you look, you can see Irina glancing down at the ground, not quite meeting anyone's eyes, but as kind of a quiet silence settles over the group, she kind of glances up and blurts out, Kiva, do you mind if I speak with you for a moment? Alone.
She looks to the others first. It won't be a moment.
Erthandir gives kind of a hand gesture, like, go on then.
Kiva walks over and is also not making eye contact at all.
Irina seems to be doing the same, and she kind of, walks toward a small shed on the side of the inn, kind of rounding around the edge until they're out of sight, and then she turns to face you again, kind of taking a deep breath and steadying her shoulders. And as she does so, you can see that there's something crumpled in her hand, and you can see the little bit of parchment that you slipped under her door the previous night.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have. Look, I promise I'll leave you alone after this. Look, it was a mistake, and I didn't mean to upset you.
No, it's all right. You didn't upset me. Please don't feel like you need to apologize. She glances up at you past her hair, and she kind of offers you a real, genuine but sad smile. It means a lot, really. Ever since I've met you, you've been like a ray of sunshine in a place that has not seen it for a very long time. It's been you and your friends. You've just been strong and so brave, and I've not seen a lot of that as of late, so I just want to start off by saying that all of you, but especially you, you've been wonderful.
Yeah, it's really no trouble. We're happy to help. All of us are happy to help.
Truth be told, it's me that should say that I'm sorry. Because I really mean it. You're wonderful, but She kind of lets her shoulders slump, glancing away. I just wish that I could be what you deserve.
No, you don't have to. Look, I shouldn't have put that pressure on you. I shouldn't have said anything.
No, it's not that. It just... I mean, you said yourself, you know what it's like to just feel like you're lost and you're broken, but truth be told, I felt that since before the devil ever came to my house. You can see that she's kind of fumbling for words. This, how to say it? Look, there's an old legend, a belief that says, before the curse of the devil fell out for our land, the Barovian people were watched over by the Morning Lord every day, from sunrise until the sunset. But now, no one has seen the sun in centuries, and the Morning Lord has not answered our prayers. Do you know what it's like to feel like that? Like there's the part of you covered in fog and mist, and you're searching for the shaft of sunlight that will burn the fog away, but you can't find it. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job of illustrating it, am I?
No, I know. There's a part of my life, a part of my family. I have a people that I'll never know, and a life that I'll never get to have, and sometimes I think that it was maybe my fault, that I ruined my chance to be there. And even though I've mostly moved on, I've given up hope of ever going home. I still want it, and I know, at least partially, what it feels like to feel like you're searching for something that seems impossible to find.
You feel a weight on your arm, and you see Irina kind of has placed her hand there. There's a soft look on her face, just a gentle empathy there. It's like a missing puzzle piece, right? Something that makes you whole, but that you can't find.
Exactly.
You know, I've always felt like that, really. Like I've been wandering for something that I can't find. It's like I'm looking for something, and she kind of steps away, kind of putting a hand over her forehead, or someone that I've forgotten. Sometimes I see a face in my dreams, but I can't remember it when I wake up.
Whatever or whoever it is that you're searching for, you'll find them. Or it, and as long as I'm here, I'll help you do that. Since I've met you, I've wanted nothing more than your happiness. I don't know if it's possible for me anymore, but I think it's possible for you, and I'd like to help if I can. Even if it's just as your friend, I'm happy to do so.
Irina laughs a little helplessly and just kind of reaches out and takes Kiva's hand and just squeezes it if she'll let her.
She does.
She offers you a sad smile. You know, it's strange. I've always felt like I've stuck out, like I'm out of place. Not just because of the hair. And she kind of pokes at her hair. Although it's odd that it's not the right color anymore, but... Look, my father did what he could, and I miss him so much, but with our mother gone, there was always that sense of absence, of loneliness, of something that I was missing. When the devil came, I saw in his gaze and I felt like I belonged somewhere. It was terrible. I hated it, but for the first time I felt like I knew him, like I'd always known him, and that didn't go away after it ended. I don't think he's what I'm looking for. I don't want to see him ever again if I can help it, but I feel like whatever I'm looking for, whatever you're looking for, it has to be out there somewhere. And we have to keep trying to find it, because we will find it. And once we do, everything will make sense. Right?
Of course it will. Of course.
She kind of squeezes Kiva's hand again, and then hesitates for a moment, and then grabs you in a hug. Thank you. There have been so few people that I can rely on like you all, and just thank you. I want to make sure that whatever you're looking for, that you find it too.
Kiva slowly puts her arms around Irina, and she just sort of stands there for a little bit, and then she gives Irina a kiss on the top of the head, and she backs away.
Irina gives you a look in the eyes and smiles off sadly and says, "Be safe, all right?" And she gives your hand a final squeeze before letting her fingers slip away. Come back to Vallaki soon.
Of course. It won't be long at all.
She nods and kind of moves to straighten her tunic. Right. Sorry, I guess I've been keeping you. Your friends are probably waiting.
Irina, you could keep me as long as you wanted. Truly. And then she leaves.
Irina follows. The two of you see Irina and Kiva emerge from behind the shed.
It took you long enough.
Kiva just doesn't say anything.
Metreon does that thing where he's joking at first, but then he sees her expression and then kind of realizes that maybe it was a little bit inappropriate and shrinks back a bit. Yeah. Well, we should be on then.
Yeah, let's get going. See y'all soon.
Bismarck turns and nods with a smile, though he gives his sister a bit of a questioning look. We'll see you soon. Be well. And at that, Solar turns and grunts. Right. We go to road now. Goodbye, Vallakian. And he starts making his way down the road.
We follow.
Yep.
All right. With that, you make your way away from the Blue Water Inn out into the streets of Vallaki as the morning slowly comes, the gray light brightening in the sky, and soon enough passing toward the western gate of Vallaki. The guards there give you a pair of questioning looks, but a pair of nods at Soldar and his friend, and open the gates without question. Together you slowly pass through into the chill, autumnal air, your breath softly frosting on the wind. And as the gates close shut tight behind you, you can see the shadow of Vallaki slowly retreating as you begin making your way away from town.
Yeah, we're just following them.
You continue your way.
Preoccupied.
Yes?
Sorry, just saying she's preoccupied, not really paying attention, sort of staring into the distance.
All right, you make your way together down the road, and as you do, you can see what seems to be a small trail winding its way leftward, south of the main road, and vanishing beyond the tree line to the south. Moving forward, you see a number of old, slouching buildings and houses just outside the vicinity of the gates, but you can see that the ceilings are shattered and collapsed inward in many places, water pooling around their bases, the windows rotted and the floorboards clearly in not much better shape. Whatever paint that must have once been faded away and stripped with the weight of years. Soldar barely sparing them a single look as he continues on forward. You continue moving, soon enough coming past another small trail that splits off from the main road, and Soldar turns and grunts toward it. If you look for Wistani, follow that trail. It takes you to their camp, though they are not very friendly.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
He nods and turns back to the trail. And as he does, Lillison and Kiva, as you kind of glance around the trail, you hear the beating of distant wings, and as you kind of glance up above, the two of you can faintly see a black-feathered raven just faintly gliding through the air far above you as you make your way down the road, seemingly following your travel.
Kiva keeps an eye on it and points it out to the others, but doesn't make like a big deal. She's just, in her mind, she's not sure if it's one of the ravens that was at the Blue Water Inn or if this is one of like Strahd's birds.
What are you looking for exactly?
She's looking, I guess, to see if it reminds her of one of the ones that was at the Blue Water Inn, or if all ravens are sort of indistinguishable in that sense.
I mean, make a perception check. It's pretty far away, so make it with disadvantage. And this, recognizing a raven's going to be pretty tough, but feel free to go for it.
Let's see how badly I can fail with this one. That's a 9.
You do not recognize it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a bird flying far above you. You probably couldn't make out enough of its features to see if they were familiar, and you don't usually tend to look at birds anyway, so.
Of course. Does it seem like it's following us, though? Or is that something that also wouldn't be discernible from the check?
As you make your way forward for a few more minutes, like 5 or 6 minutes of travel down the road, it certainly seems to be following you. It'll occasionally kind of veer off to the side and kind of make a circular loop to make sure it's back behind you again. You're pretty certain that this bird is tailing you, though clearly not making much of an effort to hide itself.
Okay, she'll point it out to the group then, definitely, that it seems pretty obviously following.
Amity, you want to maybe ask it a question?
Amity sort of shakes her head and turns like was just like listening to a podcast and pulled out earbuds or something. Sorry, what? By the way, Amity is spending a bardic inspiration die right now.
Yeah, no,
sure. You're rolling?
Yeah, I'll roll it.
All right, go for it.
That Kiva said that raven is following us. Maybe you want to, chat with it.
Oh, good idea. Yeah, Amity will start ritual casting Speak with Animals, everyone's favorite spell.
Hey.
All right.
Wilson gives an alarmed look towards the guides and sees how they are handling this casual use of magic.
They don't really seem to be paying much attention to you. They're just kind of making their way forward, and you seem to be following them. They don't seem to be taking much notice of you, just making their way on the path. You can see that they're occasionally scanning the tree line for any signs of danger, but they don't seem overtly concerned with whatever's going on behind them.
Professionals, I like that.
I wonder if the bird is following us, hoping for scraps.
It'd have a much better time in the city than there's all sorts of garbage.
Yes, but in the city is also small children who might want to throw rocks at it.
Well, they said that killing a raven was bad luck, so I don't imagine that'd be an issue.
Yes,
Yeah.
but also lobbing stuffed animals at patrons is not exactly the best of luck either.
I mean, I'd rather
Fair
lob something at a
enough.
patron than a human and a bird.
That's fair.
Well-
Actually, would Earthrendeer know? Is this natural raven behavior?
Make a nature check.
Making a nature check. 19.
It's certainly not behaving like any raven you've ever seen. Maybe if there was clear evidence, maybe you'd fed a raven on a previous occasion, you know that they can be fairly intelligent birds. But you've certainly not interacted with ravens in such a way that would encourage them to follow you, you don't think. It's certainly uncharacteristic.
Yeah, this is out of the ordinary. I don't trust this. Should we just... I guess we let Amity do her thing, but if not, do we shoot it?
Yeah,
Oh.
just be on standby.
Oh, one moment. Lillison will sort of speed walk a little bit to get a bit closer to the guides, and she's going to say, excuse me, does one of you have a pet raven, perhaps? Or Perhaps just a bird that you feed? There's one that seems to be following us.
They blink and exchange looks. Saldar glances up, shrugs. I do not have raven, but... What?
Oh, we just thought it was odd that it was following us, and I was wondering whether perhaps it knows to follow you for scavenging your kills or something.
He frowns and then shakes his head. No. He turns back to the road.
Oh, well, thank you.
Any dice?
No, they don't seem to know anything about it. Or these are the least curious men I've ever met.
I mean, they're professionals. You pay them to. You don't pay them just to, follow or let it lead us. Rather, you pay them to just do that. We didn't pay them to listen to us.
Yeah, I'm with Metreon. But, alright, if Amity can't get through to this thing, or if it tries to fly off, I vote we hit it with something. We know P can control the animals. I think we don't take any chances.
Will Amity be able to get its attention from all the way down here?
Almost certainly. If I heard, a worm start talking my language as I was walking along, I'd definitely look down.
How's that going, Amity?
At this point, Amity has completed the ritual spell.
All right, Amity waves her hand up and cries out, "Hello! No need to be afraid. We aren't going to harm you. How go your travels, O clever raven?"
Soldar and Yevgeny turn back and give you a very odd look. Yevgeny kind of snorts and shrugs and turns back to the road. Well, listen, you see the raven briefly glance down toward you. Just give a caw of greeting that Amity, you basically recognize it as, just a cursory hello, and then circle once and continue its way up above.
Perhaps you're going to the same place we are? Or maybe there's another reason that you're following us?
The raven does not appear to respond. It's pretty high up at this point.
Oh, so maybe it just can't hear me?
Perhaps.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn to my companions and be like, I don't know if it can quite make out what I'm saying from up there.
You've got a pretty loud. I think it's ignoring you.
Do you think it's also a professional?
Might be.
Might be.
Does Amity have any clue about whether it's intentionally ignoring her or whether it just can't hear?
From this distance, it's hard to tell. You think that it probably should be able to hear you, but it's pretty high up in the sky. Almost, you can actually only just faintly see it through the mist and fog overhead. So it's tough to tell. It might be ignoring you, might be not.
Earthendir's going to sigh and unclip his wand from his belt. Well, if there's no objections, and he is going to begin to cast Firebolt.
All right.
Whoa.
Hey, what? He pauses midway through the glyph. We know P sees through animals. We can't take chances.
All right, that's a fair point.
I'm sorry. I mean, animals don't like me much, but I don't want to hurt them deliberately. It's just.
No. Go ahead.
Did we could we hear and understand what Amity was saying while she was casting Speak with Animals?
That's a very good question. Let me just briefly check the text of Speak with Animals.
In this instance, Amity's only too happy to relay what she attempted to say to her companions.
Okay, then going off of that, Lillison will say, but just in case, you did say that we wouldn't hurt it.
So maybe I should give it a warning before Earthendir goes ahead.
Yeah, that's politer, as Earthendir gives a guilty look at Truffle.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my
Amity,
god.
hollers up again. Just letting you know, we're not quite sure what you are, and just in case you happen to be an agent of evil, my companion is about to launch a bit of a firebolt. So if you can hear me and you do want to talk, then maybe come down and talk.
There's a moment, and then the raven gives a loud squawk that Amity you interpret easily as just kind of alarm and a kind of semblance of agreement, and then kind of veers banking hard to the right, circling back behind you, fading a bit into the mist and fog, and then a few moments later emerging several hundred feet further back and clearly keeping a distance.
Well, that actually worked.
Well, it seems like it could hear me. It just didn't want to answer.
Yeah, no, I guess that's a good sign. I guess if it was, like, compulsed by the vampire, it wouldn't be able to turn away, but good shout, Amity. That was a good idea. And he'll stow his wand and give her a smile and then keep walking.
As you do, Saldar turns back and it fixes you, Erthandir, with a steady glare. Do not harm Raven while we travel, or else we will no longer travel. Do you understand?
Yeah, that's crystal clear. I got you, sir.
Ill fortune. Do not kill Raven. He turns back to the road.
Means I don't kill it within your eyesight. Thanks for that. And yeah, that is all.
Amity's sort of interested. Killing ravens is bad luck?
He grunts in what sounds like an affirmative sense.
Guess I'm not getting any more out of him.
There goes extra love.
At this point, you've traveled around 3/4 of a mile down this Valich road, and here you see an arching stone bridge that crosses a silvery gray river that snakes through the woods. Saldar grunts. Do no river. We cross. Crossroads ahead.
Thank you. And yeah, Berthandir's going to kind of sit up because he knows enough of history to know that this sort of place is prime spot for ambushes. Kind of keeping a nervous eye out for either more animals or for the black carriage.
Oh,
Make a perception check, and yes, listen.
Sirs, do you ever travel east of Vallaki?
Sometimes. Less wolves, less woods, but sometimes.
Do you know of a crossroads somewhat down the road with an old gallows?
He shrugs. Been there once or twice. Why?
Is there some sort of story around that place? We passed it by and we were very curious about it.
He pauses for a moment as if pondering that, and then shrugs. There were people there. No more people. The people are dead now. Not my problem. Makes for a good place to put traps, though, da?
Yes, I suppose.
He grunts and turns back to the road.
And that's a 4 on the perception check.
You do not see anything that might be lurking and watching you from the woods, unfortunately.
Alrighty. He's still staying alert, but he's not going to see shit.
Alright. With that, you finish crossing over the stone bridge and travel another 1/4 mile or so. Then here the road comes to an X intersection with branches to the northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast. You can see that the lower half of a snapped wooden signpost thrusts upward at an angle near the eastern elbow of the intersection. The top half of the sign, featuring arms pointing in 4 directions, lies in the weeds nearby. Soldar and Yevgeny don't pay much attention, just keep marching forward. But if you'd like to do anything or inspect anything at this crossroads, you may.
Erthandir is going to reflexively pull the sign out of the brush and kind of see what it says.
You can see that it has a number of names of what seem to be locations on it. As kind of like as you hold it up to the lower half of the signpost, you can easily see that when the two parts are aligned and rejoined, the arms indicate to the southwest, Kresk and Solenka Pass. To the northwest, Lake Baratok. To the northeast, Vallaki and Ravenloft. And to the southeast, Berez.
Ooh, he kind of perks up at this, and then we'll kind of take the time, mutter it, holding the thing in place, and we'll mutter a mending spell to put the sign back on.
All right, you mutter a quick spell. You watch as the small bleeding sinews of flesh begin to warp and wrap their way forth from the wood, slowly clinging and stitching themselves together, and then slowly vanish, leaving only faint scarring behind as the wood melts into place.
Ugh. Kind of looks down at his wand like it's betrayed him, and then stows it away again. Huh. So I guess all those stories about Berez were true. There's still signs for it and stuff. Can't have been too long ago.
By this point, you can see the others are like a good quarter mile down the road ahead of you.
God! Corellians! And he is just going to pick up at a run. Thanks for that!
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you doing something back there?
Yeah, it's fine. Just pay attention to it. No, it's good.
Well, maybe keep up with us, yeah?
I was there for a minute, Matrion.
Yeah, well, we're here now, so...
Did you find something?
Put the sign back on that signpost. Says that there's a place called Mount Baratok, one direction, Berez, another,
Lake
Vallaki.
Baratok.
Lake Baratok, Solenka Pass, Vallaki, and this old Berez place, the ruined city they keep talking about. I'm damned if I know what a Solenka is.
I am just wondering if there's a pass, and if there's a sign that points to it. What lies beyond? I'm certain this entire land can't just be this one mountain valley, right?
I mean, I guess it could be. I don't think the mists play by anybody's rules, but it does, stand to reason it leads somewhere. We should pay attention to that. You get the sense that from what Amity's, Lady Water mentioned, mentioned about a dragon mansion, right? Seems like this place is full of ghosts.
Both
At least.
Lady Wachter and Plinsky.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Amity, you alright? You've barely said anything.
No, I'm fine. Just to clarify, could we actually see that mansion, or are we just talking about the?
No, we're just talking about it.
Okay, cool. I certainly don't want to actually go to the mansion if it's all haunted, which it probably is. I mean, the ghost of a dragon.
Well, yeah. I mean, dragons are sometimes alright. If it was a nice dragon, then it might be a nice haunting, but there aren't many nice dragons. But who knows?
Oi, and Metron's calling out to the trackers, the guides.
At this, you notice that they have stopped entirely stock still in place. You watch as Solar holds up a hand.
What's the holdup?
He turns toward you, just faintly angling his face. You can see his eyes are fixated on the brush around you.
Metron starts to pull out his hand crossbow.
Kiva also arms her scimitar.
You watch as Soldar and Yevgeny both knock arrows in their bows. The two of them slowly circling as their eyes pan over the tree line.
Amity sort of bumps into Kiva, sort of distracted and not really noticed the rest of them stopped.
Just stay behind me, okay?
Sure.
You watch as Soldar's eyes narrow for a second. Kiva and Lillison, you both notice at the same time a faint rustling in the brush as Soldar and Yevgeny whirl their bows toward it.
Kiva looks right away at the rustling.
At once, Yevgeny and Soldar release their bows, letting the strings go loose as arrows soar toward the underbrush. At the same time, you watch as a large gray wolf leaps from the darkness there.
Like regular large or like dire wolf large?
Just a normal large wolf, gray, black fur. It snarls, and you watch as the two arrows slice across its sides, just barely missing its face. But as they do, Lillison and Kiva, you see that the wounds that are carved across its sides instantly knit together, the wound healing and regenerating in an instant. Soldar stumbles back, cursing loudly, and as he does, the wolf veers toward Metreon. Metreon, are you wearing any pieces of loose clothing? Or any items that are attached to perhaps a belt?
I mean, he's got his bag, but otherwise he keeps things like tucked in his bag or in pockets.
All right. No wineskin, no water skin?
I guess he keeps the wineskin on his belt. So the wineskin would be on his belt.
You watch as the wolf darts directly toward you, snarling, and as it does, its jaws snatch toward your side, and I need you to make an acrobatics check, or an athletics check, as it attempts to tear away at the wineskin on your belt.
That's an 11.
All right, one moment, please. That'll be a 19. You stumble back as it tears the wineskin away from your belt, ripping it easily away from your person, clenching it tight in its jaws. You watch as the wounds that were once carved across its side now entirely healed as it snarls around the wineskin in its mouth and darts into the woods on the other side. Yevgeny and Soldar are still cursing and struggling to knock arrows in time as they whirl toward it once more. And then the wolf vanishes into the brush.
What the fuck just happened?
Why?
Soldar curses again. Shit. Fucking werewolves.
What?
What?
He exchanges a long look with Yevgeny. You bring the silver arrows? Yevgeny shakes his head sadly. Fuck.
Wait, why would they want some fucking wine? I mean, I'm glad it's not my throat, but...
Soldar looks genuinely disturbed as he kind of runs a hand across his bald head. Shit. I don't know. But the way that it healed, that was not the normal wolf. That was a lycanthrope.
Do we keep moving? We keep moving, right? We just can't stand around here.
He exchanges a quick look. Yes, we keep moving. You have ways to deal with wares, yes?
Magic.
Good. Then we keep move and we get there fast.
All right.
Stick to the road. Don't go far.
Metreon makes certain that he's like in a position where he's basically surrounded by people as much as he can be, but otherwise he's just looking shell-shocked and like he's constantly looking back and forth, back down the path into the woods, just extra paranoid about another wolf maybe popping out, or the same wolf.
Yeah.
Kiva definitely leans into the bodyguard role and sticks as close to Metreon as possible with her scimitar out.
Lillison will pull out her own water skin, which still has a bit of wine in it from before, and hold it out to Metreon and say, "Give this skin back, though. That was my father's water skin."
Oh, yeah, yeah. Bless you. And Metreon will drink.
All right, you can see a small shudder still going down the hunter's shoulders, but they steel themselves and continue making their way, moving a bit more briskly through the woods. After a few more minutes of travel, thankfully you spot no more sign of wolves, where or otherwise, but you do come to an old trail that branches off from the main road and meanders southward, vanishing into the dark woods. Soldar ignores it and continues making his way westward. You can see that the structure of this old path is covered with old gray ash, dark soil, dried and loamy in different places.
Could you perhaps tell us where that trail goes?
Haunted Mansion. We don't go there.
Same one with the dragon?
He nods.
Good to know.
Oh, if you wouldn't mind, we started trying to draw a map. Earthrendir, do you still have that?
Earthendeer looks a little sheepish and pulls it out. It is covered in note scribblings and crossings out and just terrible handwriting. He kind of extends it to Lillison sheepishly.
She takes it, makes a note of like whether Earthrendir's handwriting is like messy or neat. Perhaps mentally judges him a little bit based on the answer, and then holds it out to the guides and says, "Could you fill in some of the gaps, maybe?"
Soldar glances over it briefly. I'm not a map maker. If you want map making, cost more.
Fair enough.
What if you just tell us what else is around and we could try to make the map ourselves?
He shrugs. If you want local landmark, you tell me, and I tell you where they are.
That'll work. So,
how far away are we from the current landmark we're trying to get to?
Not far. Little more than hour, maybe.
oh, an ow. Oh, goodness. And Earthrendir takes the map back and, like, scratches something out and puts something a lot closer to Vallaki. I really misheard Erwin. Good gracious. Thought he said it 2 days. But yeah, you said there's a mansion down there. Anything else you've seen of note in the wilds? There's Kresk and Berez and Vallaki and, well, Barovia Village, obviously, or Little Barovia, but anything else?
He shrugs. If you know name, I will tell you how to get there. Beyond that, there are many things in the woods.
Point taken. He will stow the map with a bit of a disgruntled look.
Oh, what about Kresk?
He grunts and kind of raises a finger to point ahead. West side, end of Svalage Road. Keep heading past next crossroads, you will find it. At the end, on the hill. Cannot miss it.
About how long away is it, time-wise?
He frowns. 1, 2 hours? Not long.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, and Metron turns to the others. So, this place isn't super big then.
Yeah, you could walk across this in, like, day and a bit. This place is tiny. Then he kind of shoots a look at Amity, but we might not have seen all of it yet.
Amity, still a little bit shook from the declaration that werewolves are around here. Right. Yeah, it's very small. But you said, where are the werewolves? Where aren't there werewolves on the map?
You want to not get werewolves? You go to Wallaki or Kresk, anywhere with a wall. You go outside the wall, you find werewolves. Do not go outside the walls if you can help it.
That's helpful.
Wait, is the rest
It's
of Barovia just...
essentially-
Yeah. Is it all just forest, then? That...
Woodland. There is Mount Baratok to north, Mount Kakas to south. There is vinery, of course. Some mountains on eastern side, by castle. But it is how you say, basin, valley. At woods at the bottom of basin, mountains on sides. That is Barovia.
Good.
And
Didn't
you can walk
know.
around the outside of the whole thing in a few days.
I have not tried, but I do not recommend. Mist is there. Do not go near mist.
We figured that out.
But these other places on the sign, Lake Baratok and Selenka Pass, do they lead anywhere?
At this point, as you make your way forward, you can see coming into place an old dirt trail on the right-hand side, and perhaps a few dozen yards ahead of it to the left, what seems to be a branch of the road that peels off south. As you pass by them, Seldar nods toward the dirt trail on the right. That goes to Lake Baratok. Old tower there. Do not frequent. He glances down toward the left branch of the road that splits off, and as you can see, there is a massive mountain, a ridge rising off over the woods, covered in fog and mist that soon disappears into clouds, but you can just faintly catch a glimpse of a snow-capped peak that soon vanishes into gray. That way, Solenka Pass leads up Mount Kakas.
That is a really big hill.
Is mountain, not hill.
I know. It's a figure of. It was Colin. Earthendew just kind of shrugs, disgruntled by.
Kiva pats him on the back.
You try and inject a little bit of sarcasm into people's lives, and what do? They demean and belittle and be like, "No, Earthendew, that's not how that works."
Shut up. Please, I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's all right. We know that you want to still have that never have I ever badge of honor.
Earthendew snorts and kind of looks at Metreon. Nah, I'm sorry. You're kind of obviously.
Just a little bit shaken up then. Yeah.
Yep, I'll be quiet.
At this point, after another 20 minutes or so travel from the intersection where with the mansion, you see a weather-worn signpost next to the road. And here you can see the three arms of the sign pointing along three new branches of the road. The arm pointing north reads Kresk, and through the woods you can see an arching stone bridge spanning a river. The arm pointing east reads Vallaki, and the road slopes up gradually in the direction from whence you came. The arm pointing southwest, however, reads The Wizard of Wines, and the road slopes gently downward in that direction. Soldar grunts and nods and turns southwest toward the wines.
Yeah, we follow.
Yep.
You make your way forward, following the two hunters through the woods. You travel for another 5-10 minutes. You can see the trees beginning to peel back, growing thinner and giving way slowly to dark green grasses, bits of yellow brush and black bushes that lie along the ground. And after another half mile or so, the road becomes a muddy trail that meanders through the woods, descending gradually until the trees part entirely, revealing a mist-shrouded meadow. The trail splits, one branch heading west into the valley, and the other leading south into dark woods. A wooden signpost at the intersection points west and reads, Vineyard.
Does it look like there's, from this distance, that there's any activity going on outside of it?
From here, you can't make out the vineyard as such. The
Oh, okay,
fog
sorry.
is thick here, and it's difficult to make out from a distance.
Okay.
But you can see the edge of the bed of the mist that shrouds it, and as Solder and Yevgeny make their way, turning down into the valley where the meadow lies, you follow them, making your way westward into the space where the vineyard lies. And as you do, a light drizzle begins to fall. Unpainted fences blindly follow the trail, which skirts north of a sprawling vineyard before bending south toward a stately building. The fog takes on ghostly forms as it swirls between the neatly tended rows of grapevines, and here and there you see rope-handled half-barrels used for hauling grapes. North of the trail, beyond the building, you see a large stand of trees, and as you look, you can see a man wearing a dark cloak and cowl, standing at the edge of the trees, beckoning you. And that's where we'll end it for today.
No werewolf attack? You're making this too easy, Dragna.
Listen, Metron was very much attacked
Yes.
in the most sensitive part of his body.
Yes.
Hey, I rolled those random encounters, all like 9 of them, and they all came up no encounters, so I don't know what you want from me.
I'm just going
I want my
to.
that's
wine
fine.
back.
I'm just going to chalk it up to us having the hunters with us. Like that's why your dice rolled the way they did.
They know better.
Yeah.
They do not mess with tall, dark, and do not ask many questions. They have insufficient information.
All right, well, on that note, thank you all for joining us. As always, we will see you next Saturday, same time, same place.
It's a
it will be
special
Halloween.
one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Should be a fun one.
Halloween. Get ready for
Metron
some spooks.
goes to heaven, by which we mean wine.
Wait, is it Halloween next week already?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my god, my
Oh
my
costume.
God.
Oh no, what am I gonna do?
It's going to be
Time
a
is a
13th
thick
episode,
fluid.
right?
It is going to be our
13th
first
episode
Yes.
of Halloween.
Mwah, bum, bum. It's gonna be great.
Bum, bum, bum.
Be here. Be
Fantastic.
square.
We're all going to die.
Oh, for certain.
All right, well, as always, we will see you all back in the mists next Halloween Saturday. And until then, remember to avoid wolves in the woods and take care.